Here's Wiley's.
Mic check 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
Mic check 3, 2, 1.
Play fake. Bohannon looking down the middle. Takes a shot down the middle. Wide open. Thornton. He has number 2.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And they go underneath to Johnson. Johnson fighting for the goal line and finding it. Dominic Johnson, touchdown Hawks.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
From the 1, 2nd and goal. They'll stack corner or running backs, and Hill will score. Dom Hill touchdown.
The Sikkim 365 Radio Friday show is brought to you by Bird Culchin Ford.
A little interesting here.
Yeah, tight formation. They'll go Howard, and he goes nowhere. And he lost the football, and it's scooped and picked up. And this is going to be a 99-yard return for 6. J.T. Woods, an exclamation point for Baylor.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Here's Wiley's kick, gets high. It holds up there. Rogers takes the ball at the 30. He's hit and got away. Back upfield to the 35, to the 40. He's to the 45. He's to the 50, to the 45, to the 40, to the 35, to the 20, to the 10. He's all the way home. Holy moly. Man, woman, and child did that. Put him in the aisle. Johnny the Jet Rogers just tore them loose from their shoe.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, good afternoon on this Friday. It is a little warmer. We had that cold, not cold, we had that kind of fall feel for a week or two. It's warmer this evening, but it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful day, a little cloud cover. We are live inside Panther Stadium, the press box, state-of-the-art facility. And Panthers, Midway, hosting Waxahachie tonight in the District 11 6A opener. And there's no question, based on how the district is set up, that this is a game both teams need to win if they hope to make the playoffs because of how the district's set up with the power heavy of Duncanville, Cedar Hill, and also DeSoto at the top of the schedule. So Paul Catalina all the way to the left, Craig Smoak in the sunglasses today, and also Hayden Bumpus is here running the mothership as well. We appreciate your time, and thanks to Mark Stewart and Bert Colgin Ford for their Friday afternoon high school football show. And yes, we're going to talk quite a bit of college football. You heard the highlight. 50 years ago, it was in November of 1971. We've heard a lot about was Texas, Oklahoma, or there are other games, Alabama and anybody, Oklahoma and anybody, as far as Florida State and anybody. This was the original game of the century. Mm-hmm. The Johnny Rodgers punt return, a lot of people don't realize that was the first points of the game. Those were the first points. Nebraska wins at 31-28. They are 35-31. They're going to renew the rivalry. It's been, since 2010?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it used to be as good as it was. You couldn't get any better. And then, of course, they haven't played because the Big 12 and Nebraska left. And tomorrow could get ugly, but the 50th anniversary will hear from Tom Osborne and Barry Switzer today.
Yeah, can we work in tonight sometime during our broadcast, man, woman, and child?
Yeah,
put them in
tore them from the aisles or whatever.
He tore them from their shoes.
Tore them from their shoes. Again, Oklahoma's a heavy favorite tomorrow, but we're going to focus in on the history tradition. Barry Switzer from an offensive coordinator's perspective of 50 years ago, and then the rivalry between Oklahoma and Nebraska, and Tom Osborne was the offensive coordinator under Bob Devaney, and now, of course, retired both in the Hall of Fame. Craig, what's your best memory of Oklahoma and Nebraska?
To be honest with you, I don't really have one. I mean, I have seen them play a few times, but, not a game that I can recall that just stands out to me. I mean, I wasn't a game of the century age. I wasn't a person who was young enough to appreciate Barry Switzer. I was barely able to appreciate Tom Osborne, and that was when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old, when he was finishing out his era at Nebraska. So I caught a glimpse of Nebraska's glory years, and I caught a glimpse of Oklahoma's turnaround after, Switzer was booted, and then they went through a string of coaches that were just not very good. And then eventually they, of course, hired Bob Stoops. And so, there was a couple of clashes there in the early 2000s that I recall. But, I mean, nothing on the level of the game of the century or anything that comes close to the true nature of the rivalry, because my impressions are all, decades after the fact. And at that point, there was still a little something to it, but it's kind of like right now. There's not that umph that there was when they were Big Eight and they were playing each other constantly, and it was for, the number one spot or for a spot in the championship. So I've got some appreciation for it, but I missed out on the best parts.
I wonder if you could go back and be a fly on the wall when the Big 12 first came out with a scheduling model that was going to cut off one of their big rivals, rivalry games, and one of their marquee games of the year that people would watch on television. And I would assume, because Nebraska has always been indignant in a good way about the way that they're treated, when it came to the Big Ten last year and not playing, when it came to, the Big 12 and some of the rules they were trying to impose that Nebraska didn't feel that were fair, and especially that were coming from one school and one school only, when they took away Nebraska's big rival and essentially, assured that Texas was going to get to play that same school every year. That I would have been pretty mad. And I wonder if Oklahoma fought for it, or if anybody, because to me, like, there was an easy answer to it, because it happens all over conferences across the country. But the Big 12 was like, no, we've got this math. The math says this. And they're like, well, what about the math in the other conferences? Why do they do it and we can't?
Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. When the conference was formed, yes, you had those who had power, but at that time, they were at the elite part of their power. They were the best college football program in America.
Yeah.
Coming off a couple of national titles, playing in 3 straight. They won again in a year later. They lost to Texas in the opening Big 12 championship game. And you if you didn't use your clout then shame on you as well. I do ask Tom Osborne about the fact that the rivalry ended and how college football is no longer rivalry oriented, not even regionally oriented, because we're going to that kind of a mini NFL type look with whatever happens in the future. Speaking of realignment, yesterday we talked quite a bit about Dennis Dodd. By the way, 254-339-1122 is the text line. No calls today, but you can text us, and we'll also have the chat room going on YouTube. So glad to have you with us wherever you are. In Dennis Dodd's story about the Mountain West being targeted by the American, there's one paragraph that kind of got buried. Anybody with aspirations for the Big 12 might say, why would I go anywhere except for a couple of years? Why would I go anywhere except wait for a couple of years, wait for the Big 12 to expand again, said a group of 5 sources involved in realignment. Then here's the one that was interesting. Big 12 executives are also watching closely as the Pac-12 negotiates a new TV deal in 2024 when its current agreement with Fox and ESPN expires. If the Pac-12 media rights revenue approximates that of the Big 12 at the time, there's a feeling within the Big 12 that some Pac-12 schools might be the ones interested in joining the Big 12.
Look, I haven't pretended to have any insider info, but I've been saying this from pretty much the start of this whole thing. I'm not the first person to float out the idea that, the Pac-12 might not be on completely firm ground for the foreseeable future, and that there might be an opportunity to go and pluck a couple of teams away from them despite the alliance and all of that. So, yeah, that is an interesting way to phrase it and to mention the possibility of that. I I'll still say it. You know, when they were looking to expand before the alliance came along, I was like, hey, you know, take a look. You know, with all the politics involved and the Pac-12 just kind of being wishy-washy, although Kliavkoff sort of settled that down. But there's no doubt there were a lot of unhappy parties before Kliavkoff came in.
Yeah.
And there are still probably some schools that aren't quite on board with every single thing that he's done so far. So, yeah, if the Big 12 money's good and you feel like, hey, I can avoid maybe some of the things I dislike about the Pac-12 and still have the things that I do like. I just got to shift over here. Arizona State, even Colorado, I'd be looking at all those schools and perhaps even, you know, more. You're obviously not going to ever get like a UCLA or a USC or any of those. But I think, you know, the Arizona schools or a Colorado, maybe they are in play one day. So, yeah, I definitely keep my eyes open, and those would be incredible additions to the conference.
And I also remember it was probably 3 weeks ago when really we started hearing about the Big 12 having teams more interest than maybe most people thought because they thought it was dead in the water. And I mentioned that when Colorado State was brought up, and that I think there were 4 or 5 years ago, there were 17 schools that they at least talked to. This time it was more like 13 or 15. And Bob Bowlesby confirmed that with us when we had him on a week ago Saturday. But one of them is Colorado State. One of them that actually did get an audience or vice versa was Colorado State. Now, Colorado's happy where they are, at least for now. But I would not be surprised. I'm not reporting this, but I would not be surprised if at least Colorado saw a little bit of the momentum going on, and maybe they said, hey, by the way, how's everything in the neighborhood? Just to kind of make that call.
Well, yeah, and make sure, we're not in any way reporting that because we know how some people jump on that. Yeah, but, I mean, I have no idea if there's any truth to that or not, but, you know, there's a reason why I was saying that a few weeks ago and why it's been a topic about, you know, the Pac-12 maybe losing teams down the line. Absolutely, I could see a school. I mean, we didn't have any – I mean, we had an indication that Oklahoma and Texas were eventually going to kind of weigh their options and all that, but they did it so quickly and out of nowhere. And, you know, obviously there were some teams in the American that were making – okay money, but they were looking to make more. I don't know how the money's going to shake out, but again, with politics coming into play and just the scope of geography and rivalries and all of that, I mean, Colorado makes a lot of sense in the Pac-12, but they also made sense in the Big 12. And, you know, we don't know what the future looks like, but I'd leave all the doors open.
One of the things that Colorado does seem to fit. Now, that doesn't mean but they do kind of, aren't they more Pac-12ish with how they view things in life?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean,
so's UT.
But I mean, to me, I think that, you can get in the weeds of that. That's why I wonder about Arizona and Arizona State. And maybe not both of them. I mean, honestly, maybe not both of them. Everybody acts like they're coming together. Like everybody acts now like all these schools go together, like it was in the SWC into the Big 12 where the state governments made people buddy off, or our state government did. But I don't think that's the case anymore. If it's Arizona and Colorado and Memphis and Boise State, because that's the way you add 4 teams, then that's what it is. Or if it's Arizona State and Boise State and Memphis and somebody else, then that's what it is. I don't think the schools have to go together. But if you're Arizona, I'm just going to say Arizona, what's the Pac-12 really doing for you other than paying you? You know, I think some teams might want to come into the Big 12 because if the money's the same, the Big 12 is going to be more wide open than any conference in America in 4 years.
Yeah, and it'll probably be appealing that you don't have Big Brother constantly telling you what to do and having the final word on everything, because their version of UT and Oklahoma is USC or UCLA or, schools like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So why would you not? If you're Colorado, Arizona State, even Utah, although I think Utah's pretty happy where they are, but like if you're a school like Colorado, Arizona State, and the money is the same in the Big 12 as it is in the Pac-12, and you haven't sniffed winning the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 has a hierarchy that you may not be nuts about, the Big 12, I mean, are you like, if you're Colorado, do you live in the fear of UCF or Cincinnati? No, you're pretty much on the same footing as them. If you're Colorado, do you fear Baylor or TCU? No, you played them in the past and kicked their ass sometimes. So, you've got history with some of the schools and others. You probably don't think like, oh man, because it's not like Colorado and telling them they're going into the SEC.
One of the things though that we haven't really ever discussed, and it might be a good question for Mac or the next time we have an AD or an administrator on, is, you get money when you move to one conference or another. There's the grant of rights. There's all of that. And then there's the championship game money and the college football and but how much does it cost a program to make the change in just expenses. Like, I don't know, do we have this, Hayden or Paul? Do we have that equipment manager from Brigham Young? Do we have that graphic? Can we put that up or not?
Yeah, Jack is going to have to put that up.
Okay.
So,
Jack, if you can, and I can't tell where we are right now on YouTube, but I hope we're up and going. Here's the thing.
We are.
If we have the Brigham Young graphic, and let me know when it goes up. This is the equipment manager at Brigham Young. He's also the head of the player development, whatever. And this was a package that they got. It has the Big 12 logo. And you wonder, I know the Big 12 probably pays for anything that they put their logo on, but what are the expenses of changing conferences for UCF other than exit fees or whatever else? I mean, it's as simple as jerseys, and okay, maybe the Big 12 does. There's got to be a little expense there.
Maybe you can save money that would go towards the stitching of new logos on jerseys by not doing like waterfalls in your locker room or whatever else kind of silly stuff that programs are spending money on. Maybe you don't need a new weight room 4 years after you got the last new weight room, and like there's so much excess spending that I'm not really worried about a college finding money to switch, decals on their helmets and look patches on their jerseys. I know what you mean though. Like there's rebranding costs, but those would seem minimal to me in comparison to a lot of the other stuff that's just, money's being burnt over when it comes to recruiting and trips and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, there is some cost, no doubt about it, but the obviously the eventual return is far greater than any cost. So I guess you spend the money and maybe you go in the in the red for a little while, and then you get your Big 12 checks and everything's hunky dory.
Yep. There's the BYU gear. Jack put that up. Jack running the mothership from our mothership at 101 Elm and MLK. Hayden Bump is here as well.
But going back to the Pac-12, I mean, we're just throwing out names of schools because, I mean, obviously Colorado was in the Big 12 at one point in time, and then the Arizona schools, there's just been little whispers about them in the past, and obviously proximity as well. And maybe it'd be some other team that we're not even thinking of. I mean, obviously there's a bunch you can go and say, like, okay, obviously it would never be a Southern Cal or a UCLA or an Oregon or a Washington. You can pretty much eliminate half the conference, but I do think it at least speaks to the fact that even though the Big 12 has settled down and the SEC has been basically quiet since their little midnight theft of Oklahoma and Texas, that there is still some rumbling going on. It's not just the American trying to go and maybe raid the WAC or whatever to fill their slots. I mean, they're going to do that, and then guess what? Another conference is going to have to respond. But I think the Power Fives or the Autonomy Fives, I don't think that's quite settled yet either. And that's, what you got to at the beginning, but it's definitely something of interest with these contracts starting to get closer and closer to expiration.
And also on the Pac-12 thing, this could all be those schools that are, towards the bottom and feel like they don't have as much sway as Oregon and USC or UCLA, Washington, and Stanford do. Just saying like, hey, when you negotiate this TV deal, let's make sure that it's pretty damn good. Because if it's not,
then we have
options.
Yeah, we might have to go look elsewhere.
It's a move.
And I don't know if Craig, you've brought it up before. I've brought up Colorado a couple of times, but I wonder, that kind of got buried in that story about what the AAC is trying to do in the Mountain West and what's happening, rather than what was even with all due respect to those teams, the biggest story was that there are some Pac-12 teams, according to some in the Big 12, and that also might be trying to puff their chest out a little bit too.
I'll just take a survey of the three of us. Do any of the three of us think that 10 years ago, when the Big 12 was falling apart the first time, and Clemson and Florida State were unhappy with the ACC, that they were ever in a million years coming to the Big 12? No. But they were going to say like, well, hey, they need some teams.
Yeah,
I do think Louisville would have been, coming on over though, but, There were some opportunities for some others that they missed out on, and Louisville was one that at the time, right now it doesn't look as bad, but at the time it looked a little bad. And Lamar Jackson's going out winning the Heisman a couple of years ago, and I remember some of the murmurs then, even though it was years later. But yeah, no, I mean. But there are those rumors about Florida State and Clemson eventually. I mean, they're locked in for quite a long time with the ACC, but there are plenty of rumblings about the ACC as well. So I think point being, if you're the Big 12, you are the weak link there for, about a month's time because you got completely sideswiped. And then you stayed quiet for a little bit. You got your ducks in a row. And we kept preaching, be proactive, go out on the hunt, and don't be, left with the bag in your hands again like you always are. And that's what they did. And not only have they added 4 quality programs that have a lot of upward growth potential, but they've also created a pretty interesting league on paper as well, a pretty fun and entertaining league where you look and you go, man, I don't know who the hell's going to win this year after year, because there isn't that Oklahoma that's just sitting there that's the obvious choice. And I think it's, also a league that has now shown that by getting its act together and having the spread they do geographically, even though it's not like one of the real important things in realignment, that they're maybe, raise some eyebrows and go, you know what? Kind of like what they got going on over there. Maybe I don't like my situation as much as people would think.
Yep. They don't have large footprints in some of the places that you need large footprints, but they have a chance now because of who they might become or who those schools they've added, who they are already with the base that Brigham Young has, or what UCF is building, or what Cincinnati is building, and, of course, what Houston's trying to build as well. All right, here's what we have. We will break down Baylor. They're on the road against Kansas to open up the Big 12. We'll hear from Sam Bradshaw, S11 on the site. He breaks down the offense, the defense, and what KU does or what Baylor does in that game. Also today, we're going to focus in on Boise State hosting Oklahoma State. BJ Rains writes for the Idaho Press. We'll have him in about 25 minutes. And then also Robert Allen, sideline reporter for Oklahoma State football at 5 o'clock. Paul's Top 5 at the end of the show. We'll take your the text messages and also the chat room. But how about this? On the eve of the 50th anniversary of the game of the century, the 2 offensive coordinators and eventual Hall of Fame head coaches, Tom Osborne and Barry Switzer, in the next hour, including Tom Osborne, next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The city of Woodway has their family center, clinics at the park that continue, the flag football league that continues for 5 to 10-year-olds at Whitehall Park, and sand volleyball at Pogue Park. That's for 8 to 11-year-olds. So there's always some activity, not to mention the Woodway Family Center is loaded with what you can do to just constantly be active. And they're always adding. In that city where we are in, we're on Hewitt Road, which is a part of Hewitt. Woodway's just a little bit, just a nudge to the left. They are also putting on concerts on Friday afternoons and evenings. And in fact, tonight there's the concert. In fact, it's Blue Water Highway. And if you are interested, text us at 254-339-1122. We have 6 tickets for that concert tonight. And I'll tell you how you can win. First person to contact us, we will help you find those tickets. Also, the city of Woodway, 7 hotels, and we can almost see Baylor University from where we are up here in the press box overlooking the stadium. And 7-minute drives from most of the hotels in the Woodway area to McLean Stadium, to Magnolia and the Silos, to Balcones, or even our location on MLK and Elm Avenue. All of that, discoverwoodway.com.
Jeep Adventure Days are going on now at Allen Samuels. Come see the 2021 Grand Cherokee Laredo, the most awarded SUV ever, with total values of $3,250. Beautiful design, elegant style, Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo at Allen Samuels, your home for the 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee, located at 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by, let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. Why BetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICK'EM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICK'EM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
It's time to fire up the grill, heat up the oven, or get that deep fryer going to enjoy the top quality products at Waco Custom Marketplace. Order 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 6 on Wednesday. Pick up on Friday afternoon after 2 or Saturday. Enjoy the weekend. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish available right now for $4.25 a pound. Find all the crawfish boil ingredients you need, including red beef potatoes, sausage, corn cobettes, and Louisiana boil seasoning. Make your order for live crawfish by Wednesday at 6. Pick up on Friday after 2 or all day Saturday, and enjoy the weekend. Waco Custom Marketplace, your home for fresh baked kolache, cinnamon rolls every day. Butcher shop to cut your steaks the way you want. Fresh seafood, summer sausage, boudin, house cured and smoked bacon, spices, seasonings, soup mixes, and more, and weekly gift boxes for any occasion. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We're now joined by the National Championship Hall of Fame coach, the legend in Tom Osborne. Coach, thank you so much for being on Sikkim 365 Radio. What does tomorrow, the anniversary, and just Nebraska and Oklahoma playing mean?
Well, I think for older folks, it brings back a lot of memories. For most younger people, probably not so much. But there was a stretch there of, I think, about 30 years where the winner of the Nebraska-Oklahoma game either won or tied for the Big 8 Conference Championship. And I'd say probably in the majority of those cases that might have had some national championship ramifications. And so it was usually a game for all the marbles as far as we were concerned. And at that time, the Big 8 Conference was very strong. Matter of fact, in 1971, which was, as you know, 50 years ago, I think we were rated number 1 at the end of the season, Oklahoma 2, and Colorado 3. And anyway, long-standing tradition. I think also the thing about the game that was rather unique, even though it was very intense and a very strong rivalry, there wasn't a nastiness about it that sometimes those kinds of games engender, because seemed to be a good deal of healthy respect on the part of the coaches, the players, and the fan bases of both teams. I can't remember a single really ugly incident in any of those games, and so a lot of good memories, and of course a lot of disappointing memories too, because they were always hard fought and close games.
The 1971 game, and I'm old enough, I'm 62. I remember that's kind of the core of my childhood, and I remember, the Thanksgiving and all the stuff that when you guys played. The Rodgers punt return gets a lot of attention. That was the first score of the game. Jeff Kinney and Jerry Taggy and Rich Glover. What do you remember most? It was two great teams, and that thing could have flipped just like many Oklahoma and Nebraska games. What do you remember most about that?
Well, probably certainly the Johnny Rodgers punt return was important, and probably the final drive that Nebraska had. We were trailing by 3 or 4 points in the game, and had, I think, 4.5 minutes or something like that to go down and score, and we did it mostly on the ground. We had, I think there was 1 3rd and 8 where we were in a little bit of trouble, and Jerry Taggy eluded a tackler and threw a ball. It was kind of a low ball. Johnny Rodgers made a diving catch and got a first down. And then Jeff Kinney made a couple nice runs and finally a 2-yard run and scored. And I think there was still about 1.5 minutes, something like that, left in the game. And they had a long pass that was maybe slightly open but was overthrown. And then we sacked the quarterback, and that was Larry Jacobson. Put a lot of pressure on Mildren. And then I think Rich Glover went in and knocked the ball down, and we got the ball back and maybe had a couple of kneel downs, and that was the game. But it did go right down to the wire, and the thing about it was kind of different was that you'd think that running the wishbone that Oklahoma would be the dominant rushing team, and we would probably be more of a passing team because we ran traditional spread set, I formation. It was just the other way around. We ran the ball a great deal that day and had the edge in rushing yards, and they had some big passes from Jack Mildren, and we had revamped our secondary to try to stop the wishbone, and it kind of backfired on us. And so anyway, a lot of different nuances to that game.
Does it disappoint you? Obviously, when the Big 12 was formed and they went divisions, Nebraska in the north, and at the time you guys were coming off the national championships and won another one and almost won 1 or 2 or 3 more. But when that rivalry was not going to be every year like an automatic crossover game, how much did that bother you?
Well, it was disappointing because that had always been a key game for Nebraska, usually toward the end of the year. And then when the Big 12 was formed, rather than playing a crossover they were in the South Division, we were in the North Division, and then the Big Ten, many other schools, you didn't necessarily just play a division schedule. You played your rival every year, and but they didn't go that way, and so they stayed in the South Division, which meant that we played them 2 years out of every 4, and but it was never quite the same because you don't play somebody every year. It doesn't become quite the rivalry that it once was.
Is for someone, and again, I've told you where I was at that time. I mean, I was probably at the time in junior high when you guys played, and I lived the great rivalry. You were not only lived it, you were a part of it as an assistant coach, offensive coordinator, head coach, and AD. Are we losing those long-time great rivalries? We've already lost some, Texas and A&M and others, you and Oklahoma, because of how football is expanding into almost like a mini NFL?
Mm-hmm. Well, it does seem that there has been somewhat of a movement to emphasize finances, number of television sets that you're reaching, and many of the economic issues that have kind of done away with a lot of the tradition, some of the the pageantry of college athletics, and I think even the NIL thing probably affects some fans. In that it's in a way it's good that players are reaping some of the rewards of their name, image, and likeness. But on the other hand, you've turned it into a little bit of a semi-professional league, and so I would say that the emphasis on finances has certainly changed the nature of the game, and maybe not necessarily for the better.
Coach, and I know you got to go, and thanks for your time always. Is there one of the wins when you were the head coach at Nebraska against Oklahoma that meant more than any others? I know there was that stretch in the 70s after you guys won the 2 national titles, and it was so close. My God, it was always a play. Even some that you won was just a play. The 71 game was a play. Is there one in particular that stands out to you?
Well, maybe the game in 1978, because we had lost to them after the 71 game. We lost 6 in a row. One when Bob Devaney was the head coach, and then unfortunately for me, 5 times. And we did have a couple of close games that looked like maybe we had one, and all of a sudden, they toward the end they'd have one play that would score, something would happen, and they'd win. And so in 78, they came in, I think, ranked number 1, and we managed to knock the ball loose at the 3-yard line and hang on to it for the last 4 minutes and win the game. I think 17-14, and that was a very memorable game. We actually we went ahead, kicked off to them, and one of our kickoff coverage people knocked the ball loose from Kelly Phelps, and we fell on it, I think, about the 10 or 15-yard line, their 10 or 15, and looked like the game was over. But the official, for some reason, did not see the ball come out or whatever, and went down the field and really fumbled it. And another heartbreaker for us. But anyway, that one was important because after that we began to win our share, and then toward the end more than our share, but they were really hard to beat in the 70s. They had the Selman brothers, Joe Washington, some great players, and really some magnificent football teams.
How important would it be for Scott Frost if they can play well tomorrow? I know they're heavy underdogs, but how important is it for him to have something happen good right now to the program?
Well, I think it would certainly be a major factor for Nebraska's season. We have a very tough schedule. We're currently, I think we're going to play something like 4 or 5 teams that are ranked either in the top 10 or close to it. We've got Ohio State. We currently, I think, Iowa is ranked pretty high, and we're playing Oklahoma, and then Wisconsin's going to be tough, and so it's a really difficult schedule, and so I think we have a good team, and it'd be important that we score some points. Our defense is sound, and so it'll be interesting to see how it all works out. Obviously, be the most challenging game that we've played to date so far this season, and it may be the same way for Oklahoma. Maybe the best opponent they face. So, I guess we'll just have to see what happens. That's the way you play the game.
Coach, you've given me some incredible memories in my lifetime as a Nebraska fan, and you've also been generous to give me time as an interview again. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Enjoy it.
You bet.
Tom
Thank
Osborne.
you for calling.
Yes, sir. The Hall of Famer, Sikkim 365 Radio.
Richard Carr has Labor Day sale pricing going on all their cars all month long. Come by and see the yellow tag Labor Day savings on new and used cars on the lot. You may be going, wait a second, Labor Day's already come and gone. Yeah, I realize that. Richard Carr realizes that, but the Labor Day savings are continuing for the rest of the month, which means you have a little less than 2 weeks to take advantage of some great deals. Right now, Richard Carr's loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks, and each one goes through a 172-point inspection before ever hitting the lot. With dozens of lenders, Richard Carr says yes when others say no, and 100% credit approval is always their goal. Right now, they've got the Cadillacs, ultimate American luxury vehicle, sophisticated looks, and a powerful and exhilarating drive. At Richard Carr Cadillac, they'll find the right caddy for you, whether it's a smooth and powerful CT4 sedan started at only $33,395, or perhaps the XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs in the style and size that fit your lifestyle. And if they don't have the right car or truck on the lot for you, well, right now you can be first in line. Put your name on the list to be first in line for the many cars or trucks that will be coming their way. So get your name on that priority list to get the perfect vehicle for yourself as soon as they arrive at the dealership. Richard Carr, for those here in the greater Waco area, is your local hometown dealership. So give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. They can bring the test drive to you, or you can head on over to the dealership, and they will give you the test drive there. But they can help you out. If you're at work and can't get away, you're at home and can't leave for whatever reason, but you need that test drive, well, just give them a call, and they will set it up for you either at the dealership or where you need it to be. So take advantage. It's the Yellow Tag Labor Day Savings event continuing on all month long at Richard Carr, and they are owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingram with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like instant issue debit cards free at all of our banking centers, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas, familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
The thing about having a naked truck is that you get exposed for the equipment you don't have. Take, for example, your rear end. If you don't have anything back there, you're exposed about what you don't have, and that's a life. However, if you cover that rear end with a hitch, you're telling the world, hey, I got a little junk in my bed, and I'm ready to pull something. A camper, RV, boat, trailer, jet skis, heck, even a bike rack. A hitch says, I have a life beyond driving my truck to and from work, and Pickup Outfitters is the place to get a hitch for your truck, SUV, van, even some cars. We sell and install just about any kind of hitch you need. Receiver hitches from light to heavyweight to pull just about anything. And gooseneck hitches and fifth wheels when you're ready to pull the heavy stuff. And don't forget trailer and brake controller wiring. It's so important to have wiring professionally and correctly installed by the pros at Pickup Outfitters. So it's time to cover that gaping hole in the rear end of your truck with a hitch. Installed by Pickup Outfitters. Check us out online at createacommotion.com.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Here we go. We're live at Panther Stadium, midway in Waxahachie, District 11, 6A high school football in Texas. This gorgeous stadium, renovated just over 10 years ago at Panther Stadium in Hewitt/Woodway South, and it's in the Waco area as well. We're now joined by BJ Rains, the Idaho Press, one of the best games this weekend for many reasons, from expansion talk to future to it's a good game. It could be a great game. Oklahoma State plays at Boise State in that gorgeous blue field. BJ, what's the anticipation and how much is on the line other than a win because of what might the future hold?
Yeah, that's certainly been a nice side story to this. First time in history that a regular season team from the Big 12 has come to play on the blue turf. I mean, this has literally never happened before. One time Iowa State came for a bowl game, but otherwise this is uncharted territory here. So it's a big deal for Boise State, a big deal for the community, a big deal for the fans. You know, it's a sellout crowd. It's going to be one of the biggest crowds in the history of the stadium, and yeah, it's a big deal. And you throw in, you know, the fact that there's rumors about Big 12 expansion and all that, and I think Boise State certainly has something to prove, whether it be from the fan base or the team or whatever. So yeah, there's a lot on the line, and it's going to be a fun environment tomorrow night for sure.
We know AD Jeremiah Dickey very well. He was, you know, obviously here at Baylor before he went to Boise State. He's got those Big 12 ties. How confident is Boise State that maybe even if it's not the Big 12, that a Power 5 or Autonomy 5 is in the offing, even though the Big 12 might be the best chance that might actually happen here in a couple years?
Well, first of all, Jeremiah Dickey has been awesome to work with. He's done a heck of a job here. I think if he ran for mayor or governor, he might win, even though he's only been here 8 months or whatever it's been. I mean, he's winning a lot of people over very quickly, and so yeah, he's been great up here so far. But I think fans are happy, excited. I don't think the American does much for them. That report that came out, I don't think there's really much sense to going down to a watered down American with all that travel involved. But I think they were very excited and clinging to the story from last week, where if there's a second round of Big 12 expansion, Memphis and Boise State would be included. And I think it makes a lot of sense now that you have BYU. You can have a travel partner, in Boise State. So when you have the UCF volleyball team or the West Virginia, soccer team, they can now come out west and play 2 games at, BYU and Boise State instead of 1. And I think it makes a lot of sense down the line. So I think the fans are very excited. They're holding out hope. They were disappointed. Obviously, they weren't included in the first round of expansion. When they said football was the driving force behind that, they feel like their football background and history the last 2+ decades could be put up with any of those teams that got in. So I think that they're excited. They're holding out hope, and I think they're just going to patiently wait and see what happens. And in their minds, certainly a win over a Big 12 team on Saturday certainly wouldn't hurt.
Well, they almost got a win over a future Big 12 team a couple of weeks back with UCF. The Golden Knights end up pulling that one out, but then turned around and beat up on a UTEP squad last week that's been very up and down over the last few years. What's been just sort of your sense of where the Broncos program stands heading into week 3 with the 1-1 start?
Yeah, I mean, I think they feel like they gave the UCF game away. They were winning 24-7. They had an easy interception right before the half that they dropped, and then UCF ended up scoring right before half and kind of changed the game. And there were some play calling issues in the third quarter. And even with all that said, Boise State took the lead in the fourth quarter and then was driving down the field with 2 minutes left. was inside, the 40-yard line, and there was an ill-advised throw that was picked off, and they lost by 5. I think they feel like they gave that game away. They think they were the better team, and so they obviously came back and played much better against UTEP and figured some things out. They've been dealing with some injuries in the first 2 games as well, but they should have 1,000-yard running back George Jelani at full strength for this game. Should get an All-Mountain West right guard back as well. So they feel like they're, getting healthier at the right time. And, they had 2 big games on the schedule in the non-con, UCF and Oklahoma State. And, BYU is a big one coming up too. But these first 3 games, they had 2 big ones. And I think if you told them they'd win one, they'd feel okay. And I think this is a, chance for them to still make a statement and stay in that national conversation. And I know this isn't the same Oklahoma State team maybe as years past, but it's Oklahoma State, it's Big 12, and it's still a big deal to people up here.
Well, and who knows? We don't know what the future holds, and we've kind of discussed that because of what this game is, and kind of like Houston playing Texas Tech or other games as well. BJ, what is the barometer on a scale of 1 to 10? Because the ears are perked, because of the future of what could be a Chapter 2 expansion with the Big 12. The AAC is looking around. What is the hope level that the Boise State football program, athletic program overall, could be a part of the Big 12 in the future?
Oh, I think that's the goal, and that's what they want. And certainly it's a different league without Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, I think the dream was always to have to make Oklahoma come back to the blue at some point, and reenact the Statue of Liberty play. But, that's obviously not going to happen. And so it's not the same Big 12, obviously losing 2 teams like that. But I think it's still a big deal. It's certainly a step up for them to get a chance to have, a Kansas basketball come into Boise and play, or some of the other teams, a Baylor football team, Baylor basketball. I mean, I think it's a big deal for a lot of people up here to do that. And so, I think they're very excited. They're very hopeful. They're clinging to every report and every, story out there and seeing. And like I said, that one last week that said there may be a second round really got people excited and kind of got their dauber back up. They were pretty down in the dumps when they weren't picked in the first 4. And it was kind of that same day that those 4 were announced was the same day they lost to UCF. I mean, it was a rough 24 hours for Boise State. And then, the last couple of weeks, they get a big win. They got a big team coming in tomorrow, and you find out maybe you're not dead yet for the Big 12. So I think the hope is, in the next couple of years, they can still try to make that happen somehow.
Pre Jeremiah Dickey, have they been making moves to get to this point, or at least to get to the point where they could make a successful argument into the Power 5?
Yeah, they've been adding to the stadium. They've expanded the stadium. They built a practice facility in recent years. They built a whole new $22 million, football-only complex behind the end zone with locker rooms, and team meeting space, and all that stuff. One of the big, nicer complexes that a lot of recruits say is as good as they've seen. They have a brand new press box, the Sky Center thing towering over the field that was built after the first Fiesta Bowl. So they've continued to add and build. And, they talked to the AAC a couple of years ago. They had conversations with them. They were very interested in joining the ACC, either in all sports or even potentially just in football only. They've had some problems with the Mountain West. The relationship there certainly isn't great. A lot of the other presidents around the league don't like the sweetheart deal that Boise State got to stay in the league, 9, 10 years ago, whenever it was. And so they've been looking around. And I think if the AAC still had UCF and, Houston and Cincinnati, they would certainly be, would have been more intrigued, which they were even, a year or 2 ago. But the fact that those teams have left, I don't really think that makes much sense for them. I think at this point they're going to keep doing what they can do, try to win some games like this one tomorrow, and try to get to some big bowl games and prove that they're a national, power and a team that can play on a national level, and then just hope that the Big 12 decides to add more teams and they can, put themselves in the mix there.
So in terms of Oklahoma State, they've been very up and down this year. A couple of close calls. Spencer Sanders came back last week, but having watched Spencer Sanders for the last couple of years, he's very talented, but very erratic at times. So it kind of overcomes the talent in a negative way. Their defense is good, but they've had a lot of O-line troubles. They can't really get the run game going. What do you see from the Cowboys, and what do you see potentially that favors Boise State in this contest?
Well, I mean, I say this half jokingly, half serious, but whichever team runs for 50 yards may win the game. Both teams have really struggled to run the football. Boise State only rushed for 20 yards in their season opener against UCF. Last week, they had a lot of fourth quarter, mop-up yards to make the stats look a little better with the walk-on running back in there. But their main couple of guys didn't do much at all again. So, I think that's going to be a big key to the game. When Boise State has played these Power 5 games, the things that have given them trouble, and including the first matchup in Stillwater a couple of years ago, is two things: the speed of the Power 5 team, and then just the size and physicality along the line, both the offensive and defensive lines. So, they played Baylor in that Cactus Bowl a couple of years ago, and they just were not prepared for Baylor's speed. And so that, they played Virginia a couple of years ago. It was the same thing. So I think that the big concerns always when you play a Power 5 team for Boise State is the speed, particularly on the outside, and then just the lines. And so Boise State's defensive line was billed to have, multiple all-Mountain West type guys. They really, have underachieved a little bit to this point, aren't getting a ton of pressure on the quarterback. Traditionally, under Andy Avalos, when he was here as DC, they were really good at stopping the run. So I don't know how much, Oklahoma State will be able to run the football. But again, I don't know how much Boise State's going to be able to run the football either. They do get their starting running back, which I think will be a big boost for them. But I think that these teams are very similar in a lot of ways. And I think it really is going to come down to, Oklahoma State's defense and Boise State's offense that we saw just go crazy against UTEP. How much of that was UTEP, or how much did Boise State's offense figure some things out? So I think if Boise State can put some points on the board, I think they have a pretty good chance at this one.
That Cactus Bowl, that was a bad timing for Boise State. The Baylor had that year from hell, 6-0 to 6-6, and then a lot of those coaches, not a lot of them, they're all gone. And it was almost like they rallied for one more game. Katie Cannon went nuts in that game, and that was just a bad matchup for Boise State emotionally as much as anything else as well, as you mentioned, the speed. Hey, good luck. Thank you. How much right now? Is it 8-10? How much does Boise State get from the TV contract they get right now?
Well, the thing is, they get $1.8 million more than the other teams in the league, and that's kind of the thing to sit for. I think they're not that high. I think they're somewhere in the 6 to 7 range, I think, is what they get right now, somewhere in that range. But the rest of the league gets 5 to 6. They get $1.8 million on top of the rest of the league based on the value of their home games being able to be shopped differently. And they've been with ESPN for a long time, but they just switched it this year. Now Fox controls Boise State's home games, so Fox Sports 1 and Fox, and so that'll be the reason the game's on Fox Sports 1 tomorrow night. But that's the crutch of the issue here. Boise State gets extra money. The rest of the league doesn't like it, but there's really not much they can do about it at this point. So I think it's somewhere around $6.5-7 million total when you add it all together.
Sounds like how the Big 12 was formed a little bit as well, and they finally went to equal revenue back when A&M and Nebraska, Missouri, and obviously Colorado left. Thanks for your time, BJ. It's great to talk to you again. Good luck. Have fun tomorrow night. Ought to be good.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
BJ Raines, the Idaho Press. Remember having him on when Baylor was going to play Boise State, and yeah, that was the KD Cannon, his last moments. He was huge in that game.
That was the Matt Rule in the broadcast booth for a quarter or whatever it was,
yeah.
To talk about taking the job. And I watched Jim Grobe do his thing on his way out, and that coaching staff as well, many of whom are now sprinkled across the SEC and various other places. But, yeah, Boise State, I mean, that's kind of the crux of the deal. I mean, you hear it right there. They're not making a ton of money. They're making more than others, but clearly they're treated a little bit differently, and that doesn't sit well with some of the others. And they're kind of in that, I guess, in-between spot, but they definitely are near the top of the list, I would think, in terms of Big 12 expansion ideas. Now, if the Pac-12 thing is realistically in play at any point, which that's got to be the priority over anything else because those schools are such bigger brands. But let's just take Pac-12 off the table, which again would be some time away. I mean, who else other than Boise? I mean, it's Memphis, it's Boise. Who else? Who else would be like top of the list? I mean, don't tell me SMU because they're not top of the list.
No.
I think those are the two obvious ones, but I know I'm probably missing somebody.
It's Memphis and Boise State. To me, it's pretty obvious. And then it depends on if you went deeper, and then the pool would be 5 or 6 teams that didn't make a couple of the cuts to get to where they are now, with the 4 coming in and the 2 that will be, if they go Chapter 2, either sooner rather than later. But I think that group of teams would include Colorado State, I'm just saying these are teams that have had a chance, but I think Tulane would get possibly. How about their new helmets?
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Oh my! You don't like them? It's historical.
I actually don't think it looks that good, but I enjoy the historical aspect of it. But I don't think it looks that great now.
There's a reason they don't wear them.
No, I know, but some of these throwback things, I think they're going to wear those the rest of the year just to remind people of who they used to be.
I have a theory about throwback jerseys because a lot of times they're very ugly.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so the Steelers and Packers both have insanely loyal fan bases, and their throwback jerseys honestly look like booty. They're just awful, terrible. The Steelers had one that made people look like bumblebees.
Yeah.
But I thought that made them look like they were coming out of prison.
Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
But here's what the NFL can do. Like, you see this fat guy eating a bratwurst over there? I'm going to get him to spend $95 on a shirt that's going to make him look like a pregnant bumblebee. And
he will.
And he will.
Yep. And he will, and he'll probably buy 2 or 3 for his kids or grandkids or his best friends as well.
Yeah, if they don't have a bunch of shirts and hats with that, logo on it, then I think, they're making a massive mistake because there will be people who are just for the nostalgia effect or novelty effect will want to cop that merchandise that aren't even Tulane fans probably. People out there that just collect stuff. But, no, I think it's cool that they're doing that. And, the decal, I mentioned that yesterday about the decal. They were going to be wearing the SEC Champs decal. But, yeah, going full-blown with the helmet now and – Tulane, another team certainly that is just that's got to be frustrating position of being considered, but still so far out that you're like the 6th, 7th, 8th team potentially, and you just got to hope like there is massive expansion. But they'll be mentioned in the mix.
I do think that if they go chapter 2+, not just with the 2 of Boise State and Memphis, I do think that at least they will be given one more shot to sell themselves, and that would be SMU. I do think, I'm not saying that'll make it, but I do think that that's a possibility. All right, Bob Williams, who is a huge Auburn fan. He is not an NFL fan whatsoever, and a lot of people aren't because we do mainly college football. He goes, hurry up and get to Barry Switzer, and we're going to do that around 4:20 or so. So thank you, Bob. And I said he hates the NFL coverage, and that's fine. He goes and mows his grass or maybe goes and does something else. I said I should have set up an NFL segment before Switzer just to make Bob suffer, but we won't. We'll work on the NFL weekend a little bit later on, only because we're trying to build relationships ourselves and the possibility of expanding. From Chris on the chat room, Colorado State, Air Force, Navy, South Florida, we've heard them. He mentions East Carolina, maybe the UNLV, San Diego State, or a few other things as well. Those are just names. And again, we don't know which one of those would stick. Like, when you cook spaghetti and you're supposed to throw it against like the refrigerator to see if it sticks. Yeah. I don't know how many of those would stick. We know Boise State and Memphis would most likely stick.
Well, and there's got to be a cap somewhere. I mean, you can't have like a 24-team league, I mean, like basically that's the entire American Athletic Conference that's coming in, so there's got to be some feeling of exclusivity and something of like these teams are special, not like we're just taking 9/10 of another conference, because that wouldn't feel that special. That would feel very watered down. But no, those are all I mean, obviously teams that should be mentioned and are in the mix.
I think this for the second round, just to make it more entertaining for us. Everybody gets to make their pitches on money and all that stuff. And because all things being equal, most of them are about the same. I think we bring back American Gladiators, and then they get to pick people to play American Gladiators and the winners, in each round get to move on to the conference.
Oh, my Lord.
Might as well better than most reality shows out there right now.
Yeah. High school football coming up. This is week number 4 of the high school football season. I got a couple of nuggets on recruits that are committed to Texas Tech and Texas, and a few other notes as well, including a local high school player who's committed to Texas, who's now been ruled ineligible. We'll have that and a couple of other notes. Also, Barry Switzer around 4:20, and this is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. All right, items of the week for Waco Custom Marketplace. They're open until 6 o'clock tonight. First of all, if you tailgate, whether it's at McLean Stadium or anywhere else, they are where you should go. 425 Lake Air Drive. You can go online, WacoCustomMarketplace.com. Contact them, and you could say, I want this many briskets, or I want this many pounds of brisket or tri-tip or sausage or chicken wings or whatever. And they'll do it for you. And inside their store, and it's a new store. It's been open for just a handful, maybe 3 or 4, maybe 5 years at the most. The Bauer family has kind of a hometown grocery store setting. So things you would need, like including charcoal or possibly just chips or Rotel tomatoes if you're going to do some sort of a queso dip. And they have all of what you need with beef. They'll cut your steaks, custom thickness, what you want. Their bacon wrapped fillets are just absolutely amazing. And there's also poultry, pork, and I mentioned, of course, all the time, the seafood. Their Norwegian salmon fillets are delicious. Waco Custom Marketplace is your tailgate store. And right now, ground beef, the 80-20, $4.20 a pound. Select New York strip from anywhere, from select to $7.55 a pound. Choice to $11.25 a pound. And prime New York strip is $14.99 a pound. Fresh chicken wings, $3.99 a pound through today at 6, and tomorrow they're open as well at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
At long last, it's time for some college football. Bird Collision Ford proudly supports the Baylor Bears as they take the field this season. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Collision Ford. We have some great vehicles available this season as well, so come check out our winning lineup of new Fords. Let's cheer the Bears on to victory and celebrate by buying a new or pre-owned car, truck, or SUV. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Playing on Sundays in the not-too-distant future. Third down and short play designed to go left. Smith cuts it back up. See you later. Touchdown, Abram Smith.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Couple of quick high school notes that are college football related. Texas Tech commit Bryson Donnell from Legacy High School, Craig's alma mater that used to be Robert E. Lee and Tyler, scored 4 touchdowns last night. But Allen beat Tyler Legacy 49-28. In that game, Allen has now won 86 of their last 87 regular season games. Their third non-district road game that they lost at Coppell, and they lost, remember, it was a week or two ago to Atascocita. So they have that, Kyler Murray, the great Terry Gamble used to coach at Midway. But Donnell scored 4 touchdowns. One was a pass, but they lost 49-28.
Who's Allen's head coach?
Chad Morris. Yeah. Absolutely. And then Jamarian Miller, who's committed to Texas. Craig, you'll remember this. He became the first player since the great Tyrone Ross at what was Lee High School that led him to a state championship in 2004 to pass 4,000 yards rushing in a career. Now, there's some schools that have like 6, 8, 10 people that have done that. Ty Ross, TY as we called him, God, I loved him, 4,748 yards, and now Jamarian Miller has 4,027, and it all just depends on, he'll go off a couple of times and probably get to that record. So that's...
Yeah, he can have that record. I'd rather have the state championship, which Tyrone will be able to say. But, yeah, he was a great running back, not big enough to be D1. But very good for his time period, and big part of why they won a state title, the only state title they've ever won. But, yeah, good to see the old alma mater have a couple backs that are in the mix, and we'll maybe watching and talking about here the next few years on the next level.
All right, so yesterday Craig brought this up. Barry Switzer will join us. Tom Osborne an hour ago. Switzer will join us here in the next segment. But the Big 12 has right now, some shaky ground when it comes to quarterbacks who are injured, they're not producing, or both. Let's go down the list.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, okay. We can all do it. We'll all pitch in a little bit here.
Okay.
Let's start with Kansas State.
Well, Skylar Thompson's hurt, right?
Yeah.
So Will Howard has to play again. Will Howard hadn't played last year, but he was kind of thrown into the fire. So they better hope that Will Howard is grown up in a year. I would think that he has, but even still, Skylar Thompson getting hurt derailed Kansas State's season last year, even before COVID attacked them.
Yeah, I mean, it takes them from being like a top 5, or I should say there's only 10 teams, an upper half team to a bottom half team, in my opinion. I mean, they got a great running back. They've got a couple good receivers. Like Malik Knowles is interesting. And defense is okay, is solid. But there's not a lot that's, Vaughn's special. He's definitely special. But with Skylar Thompson in there, it's just night and day for Kansas State at quarterback. So him being injured for a second year in a row, that's a brutal blow. With them getting started off with that winning at Stanford and feeling good about things, and Kleiman starting to get his grip into the program, and like you said, they started off really well last year, and they only fell off a cliff once Thompson got hurt. So for him to be hurt again, and for them to say, well, hey, it's not season ending, but we don't know when he's coming back. I mean, he could miss like 4 or 5 Big 12 games for all we know, or he can miss, maybe not quite a handful, but at least some. And I don't like their chances without him. Will Howard's probably better than he was last year. He should be, but it was night and day with him in there. So I'm not feeling good if I'm a K-State fan necessarily.
I'm going to check off these teams because they seem to, at least right now, they're fine. Baylor with Bohannon.
For sure.
TCU with Max Duggan.
For sure.
Texas Tech with the Oregon transfer.
Yep, Shug.
Oklahoma, and Oklahoma with Rattler, right? Those four seem to all
Oklahoma
be okay.
State with Spencer Sanders, I would say.
But he is so erratic.
Yeah, but I'd say he's their starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Like he's clearly, it's him or Illingworth, I think. And yeah, I think that Spencer Sanders is the clear guy. I mean, and he just got back last week, so I don't think it's quite time to press panic on Spencer Sanders. What I'd say about Spencer Sanders, though, is he came back last week. It's his first game, so I give him a little bit of a mulligan there. But I mean, the guy's got major issues that prevent him from being a really great quarterback, and that's turning the ball over. It's making bad decisions. And, we've heard talent. I'm done hearing about his talent. I'm done waiting to see him play really good and flash it, but still lose the game once every 5 games and just kind of look lackluster. Like, I know if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you've watched so much more of him and you're probably like, whatever. But when I've watched him several times, he's turnover prone and he makes bad decisions, and he's not ever played maybe a rare glimpse of him living up to like some big recruiting status. You know what I mean? Like, he's been an Achilles heel as much as he's been a benefit for them. So, I don't know if it would ever get to the point where, that's suddenly a controversy there. I mean, you're right that it's not exactly rock solid.
All right. Iowa State benched Purdy.
They benched Purdy.
Yeah.
They benched him against the biggest rival that they have. And Matt Campbell said afterwards that it was, as much to protect him and whatnot as it was anything else. And he also said that it wasn't even so much Purdy as it was, because if you look, all those interceptions were not entirely on him. I mean, not all of them weren't on him either, but they weren't like just 3 bad throws and it's all his fault. But, Matt Campbell he placed some blame, and it wasn't on Purdy. It was on the players around Purdy, which was interesting. And that includes, the fact that the run game hasn't just been dominant like you would think, or just the offense in general. It's been very lackluster through 2 games. So I am highly intrigued to see how they handle Hunter Dekkers, because that's like the next big name. Like, that's the new kid on the block, the big recruit that everybody wants to see. And to be fair, when he came in last week, the offense got a little bit of a spark. So it's hard to imagine that your special season would include benching your starting returning quarterback, right? But that's what they did last week. And, take what you want to believe from Matt Campbell. Some of it was to protect him, but I think some of it was also that he just wasn't playing well, and it hasn't played well so far this season. So that's, what that does is that at least creates a little conversation that you didn't think was going to be there necessarily before the year started.
Yeah. All right. And back to Brock Purdy. If you go, if you want to watch the big one too, from this past week that just aired on Wednesday night, JD broke it down a lot, and Brock Purdy was not at fault for 2 of those interceptions. One of them was straight up on him, but he was, because he was trying to make a play. But the other 2 were bad, bad routes or bad protections and all that. So I don't think Purdy's in that much danger. But sometimes I like Matt Campbell's guts to go, okay, look, this isn't working. Let's pull this kid out before he gets broken.
And I don't think he's in tons of danger either, but there's at least a conversation now happening in the fan base that maybe wasn't as loud before. And you know how those things go. They don't always trickle out onto the field, but man, they can matter sometimes. And so there is a maybe it's a vocal minority that is like, yeah, Hunter Dekkers, let's go. But if it's Purdy's job, but if he comes out again and doesn't play very well, they got a guy that they're willing to call on. So that's just a very interesting storyline for a team that you thought was just bringing everybody back, and this is going to be a great run. And so far they're 1-1 with a unimpressive showing and a bad loss to their biggest rival.
Well, I want to move on to the next team, but one note about Purdy. Last year when Baylor, which was they were struggling, they went into Ames. Remember, Squirrel Williams was giving them hell. He goes out. They picked him off a couple of times really early, and he was struggling, and the game flipped on what was a long kick return, and then Baylor's offense started to go sluggish, and they had the Breece Hall started getting some stuff, and then Terrell Bernard went out, which is part of the game, but he kind of dodged a bullet. Can you imagine where they would be if they had not won that game? And maybe how last year's Baylor season would have at least been looked at differently. Now, West Virginia, Davies the guy, right?
I mean, technically, the guy with an asterisk next to his name, the guy by default, really. He is. It's kind of like Spencer Sanders. It's like I think you kind of know what you're getting at this point, and it's not going to change like 5-6 years into his career in college. So, Jarret Doege last week against far lesser competition in Long Island, hey, looks great, but against Maryland, a little bit shakier. I don't think that. He is. I've never really been sold on him as being the guy that can take them to the promised land or take them to a different level. And so, now he's got this young whippersnapper by the name of Garrett Green. Another situation kind of like with Dekkers, where it's like the new young hot quarterback recruit, and we know how that goes. Backup's the most popular player on the team, so Doege's just pretty average. I mean, to be quite frank, it's true. He's pretty average. So this kid comes in, he runs the ball, is exciting running the football. I mean, he's got a lot to still work on, but, he gives that little spark that fans love. And, I would not be surprised to see more Garrett Green this weekend. And I think that Neil Brown's kind of played close to the vest on how he wants to play that out. But I don't think it's just going to be the Jarrett Dagey show. I think they're going to be taking a look at Green. It's just a matter of how, when, and if.
You wonder if teams who are supposed to be better and then you slip, and then you slip again if you don't make changes immediately, because now you start having to look, if you can't be in the Big 12 title game, which is a long way off, then you have to look at, Texas. We know what happened there. I thought Card looked really, really good in that opening game, and maybe Louisville or Louisiana was a little bit overmodulated. They did win big last night, and they were expected to. But Card looked, I thought, good. He moved the ball, he extended plays, but he was nothing against Arkansas. Was it him or was it Arkansas? And I thought Thompson earned the right by just what he did in the bowl game last year to start the year as a starter.
I'll tell you what I think, and I've said this several times on this big one too, or this show. I don't think the Texas quarterback of 2022 is on the roster right now. I really don't, unless their freshman is the recruit is a stud and a half. But I absolutely think that Steve Sarkisian knows what he has in Hudson Card, and he knows what he has in Casey Thompson, and he knows that was the hand that he's dealt, and that's why he's playing them both.
Then he's about to lose a couple of them to the transfer portal if he screws this up, right?
I don't think he probably should care about that.
Okay.
I think
is it Malik Hornsby? Who's the guy they have that's coming in, the young man from the
I think that, I mean, that name's from I don't know exactly. And then they have the guy that did good at
Elite 11, but he's a senior this year.
I mean, with the stunted year and just the whole last year, like my grasp of like who's in what class right now and recruiting and all of that is like so blurred and needs to clear up. But it's just a log jam in my head. But to answer your question, the biggest problem with Texas offense is their offensive line. I mean, just clear far and away. It's the offensive line is the biggest problem. And I've seen some Texas analysts who have said that they had been screaming and clamoring all offseason like, hey, hit the transfer portal. And Sark didn't, or didn't maybe to the extent that they would have liked. And you walk in and you knew in this offseason that offensive line could potentially be a problem. And you arrive in the season, and guess what? Your offensive line is looking like a problem. So that didn't help matters with Card. And I think once you get a young quarterback or an inexperienced quarterback in there, and all of a sudden he's got big old D linemen from Arkansas running at him, it's a little bit of a different world than just playing willy-nilly against Louisiana, and so you saw him show cracks, and you saw him go, oh my God, I don't know, deer in the headlights. And I think with Thompson, you've got a little bit more of a veteran and probably a bit more escapability. I think that's your hope, is that he's just going to be able to make more plays if there is going to be a constant leak in the O-line that you have to deal with, and handle it a lot better than Card will. Now, we won't know this weekend because they're playing Rice, but we're not too far away from seeing for sure who is going to end up being the guy. But, yeah, Thompson's going to get a crack now. And, I don't think it's going to matter what happens this weekend so much. But
and Baylor's about to see Malik Murphy, the kid from California, who's got a lot of talent. But, again.
Yeah, Hornsby's at A&M, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And Murphy's the one that did pretty well at Elite 11, but there's always still that raw part. Now, one more thing. We got to go because Baylor and Kansas, and then Barry Switzer. Kansas they're about to face this guy who can kind of, if you let him get loose like you did with Texas State, for someone who's not athletic, McBride, this guy can burn you with his feet.
I don't think they're going to worry about him throwing the ball too much. I mean, but he can burn you with his feet, and they can't over pursue. They can't get too out over their skis. But I think that early on he'll probably make a couple of plays, and then they'll figure it out. That's kind of been Ron Roberts' MO on defense, is that they usually make their mistakes early and correct them later. So, and which is, I'd rather do it early than late in the game. So I think he's fine, but Kansas is so far away from me even understanding. Like, I don't even understand where they are. Like that's how bad they've been, is that I can't even tell you by even watching a little bit of the game from Coastal last week when I got home, where they are. Like, are they better? Or like, I know I like their coach better than last
a little bit more this week, right?
But I mean, it's hard to even, we will, but it's just hard to gauge, like, what are they?
Here's what they are. They have a coach who's a no-nonsense throwback type of guy who's going to want to pound your ass with the running game. He will find somebody at quarterback, but it won't most likely be this year. Who knows?
No, that's this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he
also
has found him. It's Jason Bean.
Okay, and then on top of that, he's got to work on the depth. That's their problem. That's been their problem for a long, long time. I like this coach. That doesn't mean, because I like Turner Gill, and we know they had Mangino, and that got screwed up, and he led them to the verge of a championship, a national title at Kansas. All right, when we come back, they used to play every year for the Big 8 title, pretty much, for years. And then whoever won that game usually had a pretty good shot at winning the national championship or playing for one. Oklahoma and Nebraska, the 50th edition or 50th anniversary of the game of the century. Earlier, we heard from former Nebraska Hall of Fame coach Tom Osborne. Coming up next, we're going to hear from former Oklahoma Hall of Fame head coach Barry Switzer.
BetUS.com. Remember this promo code, SICK'em125 or SICK'em200. That's 125% bonus on cash and 200% bonus on crypto with deposits $100 or more when you sign up for BetUS.com. BetUS has been serving clients for 25 plus years and prides themselves on being known as America's favorite sports book. And with action on every sport across the world, we can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game. And BetUS offers the industry's biggest retail bonuses to keep their players betting longer, like SICK'em125 and SICK'em200. The BetUS loyalty program is legendary. They keep their players up to date with articles, players, team stats, and trends, giving you the right tools to make the best wagering decisions. So remember, promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200 for BetUS.com.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs, too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneerboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Howdy
did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
We're now joined by the great Barry Switzer, Oklahoma National Championship coach, Super Bowl head coach of the Cowboys. I know Nebraska's going through a tough time right now. Everybody has their ups and downs, but what does tomorrow, you think, mean to Nebraska and Oklahoma fans?
Well, they're making it a celebration of 50 years. We played 10 years ago, but it's a 50-year rivalry for the national championship. We play them every year in the Big 8 Conference, and it was our number one rival. People think Texas is. Texas is the number one rival for fans, not for the players and coaches, because, the reason why it's for the fans is because we have so many kids that come to school here, graduate here, go back south to the Red River, make a living in Texas, Houston and Dallas and all over. Games got important to them when they live in their communities, and for us to come down to the Cotton Bowl every year and beat the Longhorns is kind of a plus for them, so to live in that community. But for us, we know our goal is to win the Big 8 Conference Championship and play for the national championship when I was at Oklahoma. This is back in the 70s and 80s, and when we were in the dominant period, we won more games in the 70s than any team in college football, and we won 9 consecutive Big 8 Conference championships. We won 3 nationals, should have won 4, played for 5. But the problem was that it wasn't Texas. If you beat Texas, we always thought we were good enough to beat Nebraska. And if you played Nebraska and beat them wherever, home or there, you're going to play in the Orange Bowl for the Big 8 Conference Championship, and you're playing for the national championship, because the Orange Bowl always was able to get and attract the top player in the country, ranked team in the country, not player, but team in the country. And that's what they were able to do, and that's why the Orange Bowl produced more national championship games than the other bowl game. And so that was our goal here. Texas was huge. It was big, but Nebraska was bigger, and to the coaches and players, because that's how we got to our goals and of winning a championship.
I love the series. I'm glad it's back, and I know you talked about the 50th anniversary, and I know you were about to take over as head coach from Chuck Fairbanks. What do you remember the most? I've read 20 stories this week. I've heard read a lot of your quotes. What do you remember most?
I read most of them. Yeah, listen, I think about, obviously, it was the best number. They were the number one defense in the country. We were the number one offense in the country. We set a national rushing record that year. It'll never be broken. Records are made to be broken, but I'm tell you what, this one won't be touched. 1971, we averaged 472 yards a game for 11 games rushing the football. And we had the national record in total offense that year, too, about 600 yards a game. But that's been broken with a lot of passing teams since, and it's a change of offenses. But to run the football, no one runs the ball like that again, David. No one rushes the ball or is committed to rush the game, football like that. And we were the number one offense. They were the number one defense, and they had the ball last, and they won. And we came back from behind twice in the game. We were leading 31-28. They scored the last minute of the game and went ahead 35-31, and we didn't have enough time to come back and win it. And that was they were better. We weren't as good on defense and weren't good enough to hold them. And there were some key plays in there. We fumbled the ball and gave it to them 3 times. They only gave us 1 fumble. We gave them 3. They scored off 1. It was a pretty even game, but and it was a dominant performance by Jack Milton that day, our quarterback. He rushed for 140 yards. They took Pruitt away from us to the pitch, and I regret not throwing the ball to Johnny Harrison, the split receiver, 3 or 4 more times on deep routes, and not making sure that Greg Pruitt got the ball put in his hands at least 25 to 30 times a game, because like we did with Billy Sims And he was that kind of back, great player. He'd make something happen, and we should have, he should have come north and south against Nebraska out with some blast and pops and stretch plays and sweeps that we didn't have in our offense at that time.
Why was, other than the fact you guys were incredible during the whole time you were at Oklahoma, but there were games that came down, just like that one, they won that one, and there was a couple of others that they won that were close, but in the 70s after that, up until the game where Billy Sims fumbled late in the game and you ended up beating them the next 3-4 weeks later in the Orange Bowl, you always had once or twice, you had just, well, maybe more than that, a better team across the board. But there was always a play. Was that just a mindset that you guys knew how to win, even though they were really, really good?
Yeah, they called it Sooner Magic, but what it is, great players making big plays when you need them in the game to win it. And we had a lot of great players, Billy Sims and Keith Jackson and guys like that just performed and made it happen. But we beat Nebraska. My 10th record against Nebraska was 11-5. We were dominant against them, and so we came back in the fourth quarter 6 times to win ball games, to win Big 8 conference championships, to beat them, whether it was here or there. You mentioned the 78 game. That was my best team, and it lost. We fumbled 9 times and lost 6 fumbles that day at Lincoln. And if we hadn't done that, we won that game. We were going to be national champions. But we got them in the Orange Bowl, a rematch. We fumbled once and didn't lose that fumble. And we had them 31-10 in the fourth quarter. So that's the difference. A team that makes a few mistakes usually wins a football game, especially when they're equal or balanced teams. And that was the case. I've fumbled 13 times in some games, but we were so much better than they were, it wouldn't make any difference. We could fumble 20 and we'd still won. But it just, games like that, you got to play your best, and we didn't, and we lost it. But we, in most cases, we had it working for us against Nebraska, and we won. We won the series pretty good.
How much, and again, all week long, these stories reminiscing, but what will it be like tomorrow? Oklahoma's a heavy favorite, and we know why. Nebraska's going through a very tough time. I'm not sure where they'll ever get back. But what will it be like to kind of relive that again and have those two schools? And I remember the Big 12 title game in 2010, but what will that atmosphere be like, you think?
First of all, it won't be the same because we're not in the same league. They're in the Big Ten, and we're going to be in the SEC, and it's not going to mean as much. It's just it'll be a non-conference, game won't mean anything toward our championship player in SEC. But I think it would be a good non-conference game, but I don't think we're going to have so many to pick from that. Like Texas will be a non-conference game. We're going to play Texas every year, but they're going to be still. I mean, there'll be a conference game again, and they're not, and they'll travel with us, but we'll be playing other teams that that'll be just as good as Nebraska. That will be attractive to our schedule, but it'll never be what it was. It'll never be that, David. No.
Barry, one more thing. I know your dog wants to go out. Is the SEC, the decisions? Obviously, Oklahoma can win anywhere. I know there's always the debate. But what about, again, you say it's never going to be the same. And you're right. Is college football ever going to be like it was when you coached?
Oh, no, I don't think that the game has changed so much. The philosophy of the game, the coaching, no one is from my era, coached in our era, that believed in what we did back then. That's why I say that record we had will never change, and it will always stand the test of time. Because no one runs the ball that much and is committed to it. It can win today. I could do it from the spread formation, get 3 back principles and motion and movement and formations, and still be able to run the triple option and have a quarterback that can throw the football too from there. We'd still have people spread all over the field, but no one's committed to that, and everybody's doing what they're doing today, which fans like, and it's an exciting game, and kids are trained for it and out of high school, and they get their background there, and college coaches don't play in it. That's what they played in, the system. People adhere to what they played and were taught, so that's what they take to coaching when they become the head coach.
Barry, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Always. Barry Switzer on Sikkim 365 Radio.
So we've had Tom Osborne and Barry Switzer on Nebraska-Oklahoma's 50th anniversary of the game of the century. These two teams both have over 900 wins. Yes, Nebraska's been in a free fall for almost a decade plus. In fact, it has been more than that. 12 national titles, 96 conference titles, 10 Heisman Trophy winners. Oklahoma has 7 of those, and 277 first-team All-Americans. Oklahoma is still elite. Nebraska is nowhere near it, but the 50th anniversary of that game being celebrated in Norman, where the game was played, when Nebraska won 35-31. When we come back, a couple of notes. High school football again, and a little NFL, but also you and your text and your chat. And we'd love to hear from you. 254-339-1122. SICM 365 Radio. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be. And maybe you used to be. As you grow older, your testosterone levels can, go lower. They can drop. It's part of Mother Nature, Father Time, or whatever you want to say. Dr. Kent Petty can get your blood work, get a lab appointment for you, get your blood work. He can look at the lab results and then look at your testosterone levels. And there's always kind of a little bit of a buffer area on where it should be. If your testosterone levels are lower than they should be, and he has a way of knowing, he can put you in a program to help you increase your testosterone levels so you can become what maybe you used to be. Maybe your energy was better. Maybe your sex drive was better. Maybe your sleep habits were better. Maybe you have all of it, but he can help you no matter what. PettyClinicLowT.com. Go on the website. The number, email is on the link on the website. Contact them. They'll set you up with an appointment and sometimes get you a discounted rate on the lab work. He'll look at the results. It happens. It's part of what happens. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and Dr. Kent Petty is trying to help you out at PettyClinicLowT.com.
The 2021 Ram brand just received first place in the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study. The Dodge brand finished second to Ram, and the 2021 Jeep Gladiator is first among all midsize trucks. Quality and Ram Power Days, only at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340.
Come by, let's be friends.
Grant Dideker, under the umbrella of Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent, but you yourself represent your own business, what you do with customers. What separates you think, from everyone else?
I'll educate, let them buy. I'll sit down, go over all the coverages with them, go over everything, make sure they understand it. In case they need to use it, they know what they have, fill in any holes that they may have, or take any excess away that they may not need.
Your personality, who you are to customers, some people have different personalities. How would you describe yourself?
My dad was a coach and teacher. My mom was a teacher, for a few decades each. And again, I teach, educate, let them buy. And, there's no dumb questions. My dad always said.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, McLennan County agent. If someone wants to contact you, just straight on your cell phone?
Yep, 254-265-0442.
Grant Dideker, Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, a McLennan County agent.
With more than 160,000 alumni worldwide and counting, the Baylor family is growing. And through the university's expanded Baylor alumni program, the family is growing closer. With hundreds of local volunteers planning events in cities and towns around the country, you can gather with fellow Bears no matter where you are. So, get connected, get something started, get involved, and make plans to get together with Baylor alumni. Visit us at baylor.edu/alumni.
It's football season. Sports bettors and BetUS.com has your NFL and college football live betting lines up for their 27th year. Why BetUS.com? Well, they're the 3-decade leader, and you can join now for a 125% bonus on promo code SICM125 with cash, or a 200% bonus on crypto with SICM200. The 3-decade leader with action on every sport across the world. We can pretty much guarantee that they've got your game at BetUS.com. Use promo code SICM125 or SICM200.
At Impact Research Institute, we can help you identify if you have non-alcoholic fatty liver disease and measure for liver stiffness or scarring. If you or a loved one has diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension, obesity, or concerns about your liver health, Impact Research Institute may be able to help by providing liver health screenings quickly at no cost, physician counseling, and opportunities to qualify for clinical trials. Visit us at impactresearchtx.com for more.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour, 4:42. At 5 o'clock, we're going to hear Robert Allen does Oklahoma State sideline work. He also is a part of a radio show in that area that covers Oklahoma State. He'll join us at 5 from Boise, as we earlier heard from B.J. Rains, who covers Boise State for the Idaho Press. Question was asked earlier today, and I was able to answer it pretty quickly. Name the 3 coaches and the other 2 besides Barry Switzer who have won at least a national title and a Super Bowl. And immediately, a lot of people started to chat Jimmy Johnson. Yes, he did. Miami, and then, of course, he won twice with the Cowboys. And the other one, I started thinking around, well, it's Pete Carroll. He won national titles at USC and also won a Super Bowl pretty quickly in his time at Seattle. We're talking about the USC job earlier, and the chat room's going, the text line's going. We were talking about USC throughout the week because of Helton getting fired. Pete Carroll wasn't necessarily a popular hire. It wasn't, he ended up being perfect for them and did a great job there. But he wasn't like somebody that's the guy you got to hire, was he?
No, absolutely not. And he wasn't at the time. When the Seahawks hired him, they had the benefit of the national championships. But even you remember, he didn't do well when he was an NFL head coach the first time around. So USC, for all of the, great accolades and Heisman trophies they have in their past, since John McKay and John Robinson, I know was pretty good for a little bit, but so after John Robinson, it was Ted Tollner, Larry Smith, John Robinson again, Paul Hackett, Pete Carroll, Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, Ed Orgeron, and Clay Helton. So it's just this kind of, they've not really knocked it out of the park except for Pete Carroll since John Robinson. And John Robinson's second go around wasn't all that great. So.
Yeah, I just remembered that when they hired him, he was kind of okay, and then turned out to be a perfect fit. From the area code 253. Craig, anything on Pete Carroll? Hey, guys, great show. Found you during the expansion conversation. Dialed in from here on out. Love to hear a discussion comparing venue size for football and basketball in the new Big 12. With that, a discussion around attendance the last few years in both sports. Also using an objective measure, is there something that ranks the strength of a school's overall athletic program? And how does Brigham Young, UCF, Cincinnati, and also Houston stack up? Yeah, there's the Sears Directors Trophy, whatever it's called. UT got it last year. Learfield now. Yeah, Stanford won it like every year since before Christ. They did. And the last couple of years has been a little different. Some of the spring sports did not get to be played. And by the way, Stanford has owned that thing, but Texas was able to win it last year. And it's a huge deal. Attendance, we know Brigham Young got a big arena. It's like 20+ thousand, right? Houston's is about 67. TCU's probably in the neighborhood of 7. Baylor is 10.5. They want to build one smaller if they ever get to that point. Kansas, of course, is a big arena. Iowa State's a big arena. I think there's a couple of others in that 14 or 15,000 range. Houston's is around 7,500 or so. It's almost like the Tillman Fertitta Center. UCF, I think they're probably 7,000 or 8,000.
I think it almost is, isn't it? Fertitta Center.
Yeah, it is. And then, I always get it mixed up. Used to be the Hopkins Pavilion, and then of course Cincinnati. They've got a nice facility for what they do as well when it comes to their basketball arena and their history in hoops.
Okay, I've got the last year's Learfield Directors Cup.
All right,
standings up. I'm looking at.
All we want to know are the 8 remaining Big 12 and the 4 incoming schools.
Okay, well, if you wanted from the 8 remaining, number 1 would have been BYU.
Okay.
Number 2 was Oklahoma State.
Among orders of these 12 teams.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, BYU was 17th overall. Oklahoma State was 18th. Oklahoma was 24th.
They're not in. That's not a part of the conversation.
Sorry, yeah. Baylor was 29th.
And that's with the national championship in men's basketball.
But this thing counts like
I know
wrestling, and that's sorry, Oklahoma State's up there. You know, at least with wrestling, they're going to always have those points every year in and year out. And this
gymnastics.
Is a lot of, this is like
swimming.
Why did Texas win it? Did Texas win it because of football or basketball? No, they won it because of they won it because of swimming and diving titles and
baseball played for the national title.
Yeah, I mean they
women's
won it.
Basketball went to the Elite 8.
Sure, but yeah, like those
track
things.
And field, like you said, yeah.
But you don't win it because of football, basketball.
No.
You win it because of baseball, swimming and diving, track. I mean, all that stuff. So
softball went to the Final Four, and you're right. The 2 major sports, and they tried to weight them differently. Now that's why Stanford would always win it, because they were elite in almost all of them, and they were always pretty good or sometimes above average in football.
Well, they're one of the few that had everything, too.
Because the endowment allows them to, right?
Like the Big 12 wrestling conference is like 2 actual Big 12 teams and like 4, like it's like
Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. I don't know who else. Yeah.
But then random teams like from elsewhere.
North Dakota State's in there.
Yeah.
So how is that going to affect with these other schools coming in? What other additional sports they have that the Big 12 right now doesn't have?
Yeah. All right. So let me continue, just so we can get to the only one who was a new school so far was BYU. Iowa State is 38th. TCU is 40. Oh, Texas Tech is 43rd. TCU is 45th. West Virginia 49th. UCF is 57th. And now we're into the second level here.
I think you made your point.
Yeah. So Houston is 76th. I have not seen Cincinnati yet, but I'll let you know when I find it.
Okay. All right. So that's an answer to the text line from area code 253. We appreciate you asking the question.
Yeah. What was the question though? Like
it was, is there an objective measure?
Okay. Yeah. Then that would
how
be the
you can rank the school's overall athletic program, and Brigham Young would be at this time if you eliminated those who are leaving. And only the ones who are left in the 4 incoming schools, they'd slightly ahead, I think you said, of Oklahoma State. Is that right, Paul?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to find Cincinnati can't be this low. So I must have missed them somewhere, because I doubt they're below Wichita State. All right, I'm going to start over again and find them.
All right. Well, that's good. So that's a question. And then on the attendance in basketball, some of the incoming have nice size arenas, big ones, like Brigham Young. Cincinnati's is nice. And then UCF, Houston's not very large. And, Baylor, again, they just won a national title, but they'd like to minimize. If they do get the new arena or complex or field house, they would minimize that. Below 10.5, it would probably be more in the neighborhood of 75, 8,500. And attendance for certain places, it will never matter. Kansas, Kentucky, et cetera, in basketball, North Carolina, Duke. But the attendance across the board, it was dropping in college basketball. Games are more prevalent to watch. Every game you're able to see it. So I don't know about the attendance, but Brigham Young, I saw Fran Fraschilla when all this came down. He said, "You're kidding me. You just added Brigham Young in their arena, Cincinnati and Houston in their history, and then UCF with all the possibilities that they have now that they're going to start being a part of what is a Power 5 conference." And he was very impressed, Fran Fraschilla. And here's the thing. Oklahoma's got Moser coming in this year, and they've always been. Lon Kruger retired. They've been really good in basketball, on up and down. Texas, of course, at times has looked like they're on the edge and up and down. Shaka Smart never really was able to do there what he did at Virginia Commonwealth. Maybe because he had a lot of blue chip players, and at Virginia Commonwealth, you had a bunch of guys scrapping and clawing.
That's exactly the reason is he changed who he was.
Yeah, and also who he was getting. Yeah, you'd like to be able to do that, but are they going to get down and dirty and play that kind of style that made him so successful? And you have Houston coming in who played in the semifinals. Cincinnati with their history.
Cincinnati, by the way, 143.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess without, and I don't know how good their men's basketball team. I know that's the guy who's now in trouble. Is he the one who's now Chris Mack? Where's he at, Paul?
That was Louisville.
Yeah, I know, but wasn't Chris Mack? Was he ever? I know Bob Huggins was at Cincinnati at one point, but that's okay. 4:52 is the time. The chat room. There's a lot of talk about Brian Bosworth. Switzer is an elite company. I think Jimmy Johnson's one of the all-time greatest coaches.
Wes Miller's the coach at Cincinnati and was just named that this year.
Oh,
basketball.
But they have been. That's a basketball program. That is. That's you're talking about. That's they love the game, and it will be hard for them to ever drop too far too long if they are not a top 20 or top 15 or 20 program. And you're getting them, and that basketball conference is just going to be as good as it was, and maybe even a little bit better. Who knows? Before it's all said and done. All right. One quick note on high school football. This is Jeray Bledsoe has committed to play at Texas. He was at Bremont High School, which is between Waco and College Station. He has played for Marlin, and they got off to when I start. They lost their opening game. I just got off the phone with their athletic director, Sheila Henderson. He was cleared by everybody with the paperwork when he moved from Bremont to Marlin. District Executive Committee cleared him. However, then I don't know if it was a week or two or later, all of a sudden there was a flare-up. And no, wait a minute. He did move because of athletic purposes. He moved in during summer school. His residency is not a problem, which you have to establish that. But someone in the district changed their mind and then all of a sudden said, hey, wait a minute here. This Bledsoe kid, no, he moved because of athletic purposes. And in the UIL, that's like not paying taxes. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And there's also the accusations that happens a lot. Some get cleared, some don't. So he was declared ineligible. Sheila Henderson said that they will appeal it. But the state executive committee, when they have a district that disagrees or there is a concern, and remember, they initially cleared him. This is a guy who's going to play at Texas at a Class 2A school. Then the state executive committee can look things over. And according to Sheila, it was a 3-2 vote that he is ineligible, at least for now, and possibly most likely. They don't change their mind much on the state executive committee rulings. They let the districts make the decisions. And then if they have an issue or there is a problem, they will then get involved. And so that's too bad the young man can't play. Not sure how long that lasts, but those things usually don't get changed.
This is the most libertarian belief I have, is that I should be able to move for whatever reason I want to move. Although now that kids are putting, stuff up on Twitter about what high school they want to go to, I might have, moved off that position for the greater good of society. So I get it. I mean, it just is how it is. But, you don't want recruiting in high school football, and I understand that, but I've always been of the belief there's got to be a better way to do this than.
Well, I mean, you can't just have people from out of town just driving in to go to like Allen. I mean, I'm sure they do anyways, but there's got to be, we got to have some rules. You know, like we have to have some set of rules. Like everything we're doing is like tearing down rule after rule after rule, but there's got to be like some structure. And so, very unfortunate. I don't know the particulars of why somebody took, offense to that when it seemed to be okay to begin with. Hopefully that person doesn't have, ulterior motives, and they're doing it for the reason that, it should have been reported rather than, hey, I've got a reason for why I want to hurt this kid's senior season or whatever his football season. But can't put it past anybody. So hopefully it's something that's on the up and up, and it's just a rule, and it's an unfortunate rule, and that's what happens. And I feel for him, but if it's not, then it's be more ugliness. But just in general, unfortunate for that young man. But he's obviously got a bright future. He's got a D1 scholarship to Texas already, so he'll still be playing football, just not with this high school.
They have 3 players. Gullett, who's a junior, I think, or a sophomore, one of the two, and he's being heavily recruited. Hell, he visited Alabama and others, and another player, teammate. So they've got some, and Marlin's had talent. The problem has been they have had a school district that has been disarray, and they have a lot of people there now that are doing really good things. And this is kind of a setback for the football program because this kid was good. I have not been able to talk to Jeff Kozowski at Bremont, but I will. Not going to call him on a Friday when there's high school football. That's where we are. We're at Midway's Panther Stadium. We have a game at 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kick, Midway and Waxahachie. We're going to look at a couple of the other elite games around the state. But coming up next, Oklahoma State on the road against Boise State. Earlier, we talked to Boise State writer B.J. Rains. Next is Robert Allen. He's the sideline reporter for the Cowboys. Sikkim 365 Radio.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive in North 19th Street. By the way, they're hiring right now, so if you're looking for a job, give them a call. They're a hidden gem. They've got great selection of spirits, wine, craft beer, and their gorgeous walk-in fridge that they have there, and the amazing array of high-end bourbons. Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. And I say this every time I do this. I really want to take a tour of that Bardstown distillery one day. It looks absolutely beautiful, and the bourbon is very, very, very high-end. Great customer service and a speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
It's time for some high school football. Berg Colgan Ford proudly celebrates the Panthers, Cadets, Lions, and all the Central Texas football teams as they march their way through the season and down the field. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Berg Colgan Ford. We'd love to show you our Broncos, Raptors, and Mustangs. These vehicles are winners with their sporty options and designs. Nominate who you think deserves the Built Ford Tough Player of the Week at FordPlayerOfTheWeek.com. Visit us anytime at BKFord.com, making buying your next Ford simple at BK Ford.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Smith is the running back. Bohannon looks his direction. Nothing there. Now Bohannon's going to try to duck and run. Dives for the end zone. Did he get in? Yes, he did. Touchdown, Baylor.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers. Staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. This 5 o'clock hour. As I said earlier, we've heard from Tom Osborne and Barry Switzer. We've heard from P.J. Raines on Boise State, that game tomorrow against Oklahoma State. Robert Allen, he's the sideline reporter for the Cowboys, hosts a radio show Triple Play, also writes for pokesreport.com, and he joins us from Boise on Sikkim 365 Radio. Robert, do the Cowboys have an identity yet?
Yeah, Red Cross injury unit, MASH. It's a MASH unit. That's the identity. And you know what? It's 2 years in a row. We meet with the coordinators on Thursdays, and Casey Dunn came in the other day, the offensive coordinator, and he sat down and he looked across at Dave Hunziker and I and said, I've been in this a long time, and I cannot remember back-to-back years because, remember last year, Spencer Sanders got hurt on the first series of the season against Tulsa and was out about a month. Shane Illingworth, the freshman quarterback, did a nice job, just as he did this year when Spencer missed the opener with a COVID-19 protocol. You had two offensive linemen last year in the opener break their leg, and that just produced a series of injuries and just revolving door around the offensive line. This year, you missed your right guard. He'll start for the first time tomorrow. He missed the first two games, Hunter Woodard. You had some merry-go-round action out at left tackle. This week, I can tell you the stomach flu was going through the offensive line, which that's always fun because those guys like to eat. When they can't eat, they get kind of edgy, but maybe that'll be good because they are over it. They all travel. But it's just been – and wide receiver has been the position du jour for all the injuries so far this season. Last week, OSU started a true freshman at their outside D position and a true freshman at the outside X. And there's a good chance that happens again tomorrow.
Robert, Spencer Sanders is electric when he is on. When he's not, he's not. How much longer, do we have to wait to see him fully come out of the cocoon and be a butterfly?
We thought we saw that in the bowl game against Miami because that's as good as he's been. Now, again, he had a really good game against Baylor at the end, but you guys were speaking of COVID. That was the COVID issue there with Baylor, and he still threw 2 interceptions in that game. But I really hope the bowl game, the spring, he looked really good. He looked really good in fall camp last week. The pimples on his game, the blemishes were the pick six just before halftime, and then the fumble late in the game, which fortunately Tulsa's kid had a foot out of bounds when he tried to recover it. So OSU keeps it and scores a touchdown. But everybody's waiting on that. And you know what? The thing I do like about Spencer in the past, he would get rattled. Criticism would cause him to kind of bristle, and you just didn't like the demeanor. You didn't like the attitude. He's done with that. So that's good. That's an improvement. And we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Robert, going back to the injuries and the COVID issues and all that, is that that's obviously a major reason for why the offense has struggled. But do you have confidence that when all that settles down, health returns, guys can be back in the lineup? Do you feel confident then in this Oklahoma State offense? Because the defense is pretty good. I think that's been clear. It's just that question right now that, as you alluded to, could be all just temporary, or is it permanent?
No, I think Hunter Woodard's return tomorrow is going to be huge because they become really good from guard to guard. They've got the Danny Godlewski's a 6-year kid at center. He started 42 games in his career. Josh Sills is the West Virginia transfer that kind of kept the offensive line together last year. And Hunter Woodard is another all Big 12 caliber kid at right guard. So I want to see what it looks with that group in there. And then, I want to see this offense get their sea legs. I mean, I don't know when you'll have the receiver core back together again. I think you'll get a couple of guys back, Kansas State, hopefully by Baylor. For this team, they get everybody back. But I'm going to say this, guys. I keep tabs on what's going on across the conference. I know how many yards Baylor rushed for last week, okay? I know what Oklahoma did to Western Carolina. And people say, well, why didn't OSU do the same thing to Missouri State? Well, I'd like to see everybody else play Missouri State. Bobby Petrino's hit the portal, and he's got a pretty good club there. They made the playoffs in the spring. Not trying to make excuses, but I will say this. I think we're going to see offenses become across the board. Once it's good on good, once you get into the conference and it's good on good, I don't think we're going to quite have the score-a-thons that we've had. I think Iowa State's legitimate defensively. I think Oklahoma's legitimate defensively. This OSU team, I think, is legitimate. Baylor, because of that big son of a gun they got in the portal from LSU, I think he's going to help make them. And they've got some really good playmakers in Petrie and, Terrell. I mean, I think we are going to see less offense, more defense this year across the board in the Big 12. Now, here in a month or two, you guys can, let's get Robert on and kid him and talk about what a dumb you-know-what he is. But that's just the feeling I get. So I don't know that when this gets healthy and the Cowboys can crank it up, how much defenses are going to let them crank it up, because I do think defenses are better.
Yeah, isn't that weird how it's changed? And Matt Rule brought that philosophy with him because they had to dummy down the game a little bit with their offense to match the complementary of the defense. And then you have Kansas State with Cleelman and what Matt Campbell's done, and Wells at Texas Tech's trying to do that. I mean, that's kind of, even though he's an offensive mind, it wouldn't.
Yeah, and I forgot. Hey, Smokey, I forgot Kansas State. That's who the Cowboys have next week.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're really good defensively, and if you don't believe it, go ask Stanford.
Yep.
How they like that game down in Arlington. So I just think defense. Mike Gundy talks about it too. That 2-hole coverage that Iowa State brought in, that everybody's kind of adopted, so you can go with a 3-man front, still kind of stop the run, and have a pretty good leverage in the secondary against all this spread passing attack. I think defenses have caught up a little bit. Jim Knoll, defensive coordinator here, let me tell you, he used to be a deer in the headlight. I haven't seen the deer in the headlight look from him in a long time. So I do think defenses are a little better, but Oklahoma State's beat up. They have not played well offensively. And here's the biggest thing. Even with defenses being better, if you want to have success in this league, you better be able to run the damn ball.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, even with some good, what I think are some good running backs and a quarterback that can run now that Spencer's back in the lineup, they didn't run. I mean, they ran for 150 against Tulsa. That isn't going to blow your doors off. You got to do better than that.
What is it now that the Big 12 has survived, it appears, with what they've done with expansion and even maybe a Chapter 2 coming at some point? Where is the mindset of the Oklahoma State fans? I'm sure they're still pissed because Oklahoma's gone, and, of course, Texas leaves, and it kind of leaves everybody right after Big 12 media days like, what the hell? Where is the mindset of Oklahoma State fans with the new teams coming in and the future of the Big 12?
I think their mindset's pretty good because of the new president. She is she's a go-getter. She's a tough lady, and she cares about athletics. She was a student athlete herself in college. And I think Oklahoma State's dedicated to this. But I also think, and I know this from talking to her and talking to her staff, they're going to keep eyes out. And they did have a lot of conversations with, in particular, George Kliakoff, and I think she even had some conversations with Greg Sankey, that if you guys decide you want to go for more, Oklahoma State would be in the offering. So I think they're going to keep their eyes on that. But I do know from talking to her since the action last week, she likes the 4 teams that are coming in. Oklahoma State feels like this can be a sellable project to the TV partners, and you can get at least close to the dollar amount. Not going to get it. You're not going to get it losing Texas and Oklahoma. But if you can get close to the dollar amount and then get a little imaginative with everything else you do, I think Oklahoma State feels this is a workable league. And there is some dedication. Oklahoma State in particular, nothing personal with Baylor and Tech and TCU, but K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas to a degree, but Kansas kind of does their own thing. But those 3 state schools that have state after their name, they have a lot in common, and there's certainly some loyalty within that group that I sense. The other thing too is that to kind of keep an eye on, I think with all this is how long OU and Texas stay and how much money they have to pay when they get out, because we're all going to be concerned with that, because for a while that's going to be making up for the money we don't get from the network, because they're going to try and downplay Cincinnati and Central Florida, BYU and Houston is not making up for the loss of Texas and Oklahoma. And I understand where the networks are coming from. I think it's going to be a tremendously competitive league. And then here's the other thing. I don't know if you guys read what Gary Patterson had to say, but that was the talk of the travel party today, is this NIL stuff, because it's the wild, wild west. You've got to go to your car dealers, your businesses. Mike Gundy told me today that he was talking to Dan Mullen, the coach at Florida. He says, Mike, here in 2 or 3 years, if you want a 5-star quarterback, it's going to cost you $500,000 in NIL.
Wow.
Guys, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's stupid.
We might as well slap a tag on, the National Collegiate Football League. Yeah. And that's what this is.
I think some people, that's and I know that if you're big, powerful, and you can kind of, you're doing well. Yeah, but is that in the best interest, Robert? And this is not whining, because we get accused of that when Texas and Oklahoma left. Good for them. They can do whatever they want. But is that good for the future, or what is college football?
Guys, let me tell you, my kid played at Oklahoma State on scholarship. His old man was a walk-on, but he was on scholarship. His wife played softball catcher at Oklahoma State. My wife and I took them out to eat after their graduation. We were sitting there, and I'm just curious, Dad. I said, guys, what was the best part about being college athletes? Both of them looked at me and said, we got jobs, good jobs. We got our education, and we got friends that are going to be paying off student loans till they're 40. So getting our education, having that being debt-free coming out of college. And here's the problem. None of us in the media, none of us in college administration sold that well enough to convince kids and their parents that getting the damn education was pretty doggone important and worth something. And now you got to give them money. You got to give them money, because what the education and the swag and the coaching and the training, apparently that ain't enough.
Robert,
you get accused of being get off my lawn, but I agree with you.
I agree with you, like, to an extent. Like, I think that not being able to make money off your own name is flat out un-American, but it is also the law of unintended consequences. Like, so I'm going to be able to make money off my name. Great. That's good for everybody. We're right in line with our good American ideals, but the model that we've all grown to know and love is going to change. And you either have to be all right with that, or you have to realize that the thing you wanted is going to ruin the thing that you liked.
Well, before I get accused of the get off my lawn guy, if they're selling your jersey, you get a cut of that. If you're in the Madden, or not the Madden game, but if you're in the NCAA video game, yes, you get a cut of that. If a car dealer wants you to sign autographs, that's fine. But we're talking about guys. I know that there's some quarterbacks in this league. We'll find out about it, that are driving Range Rovers and driving Hellcat. Okay. Now we're getting out of control a little bit. And here's the other thing, too. If we're going to have NIL, there have got to be rules on how it's conducted. If there's not, if it becomes anybody can do whatever they want, then we all know who's going to win. And it ain't going to be Oklahoma State. Probably ain't going to be Baylor either. It's going to be the haves, the big haves.
Robert, great stuff. Good luck tomorrow. I know here, who knows? Boise State might be trying to let everyone know who they are, but I think most people know they're a dangerous football team.
Well,
Jeremiah Dickey, the former, yeah.
Hey, Smokey, I'll clue you in. I was talking to the president's husband this week, the first Cowboy, and he said, he goes, we were told the president at Boise State said they wanted to pick us up at the hotel Friday night, take us out to dinner. He goes, I know what that's about. We ain't going to be talking about anything other than they want to be in the Big 12.
Yeah. And Jeremiah Dickey, who's their AD, was with Mack Rhodes forever in Houston, of course, at New Mexico, UTEP, and obviously Baylor. So, yeah, there's a connection with that. Hey, enjoy the blue field and the game. Should be one that's rather interesting, I think. And good luck getting healthy up there, okay?
All right. Thanks, guys.
That's Robert Allen. He's good. That's a great segment. Robert Allen, sideline reporter for Oklahoma State, and a different perspective. And you have a value your name or whatever you do, and at the same time, that other stuff's out the window.
Yeah, but I'll say this, Folky, it's going to be harder for people to get us when things like this happen. LSU becomes the first SEC school to partner with a gambling company, agreeing to a multi-million-dollar, multi-year deal with Caesars Sportsbook. So if the university is going to go and make a deal with a casino that they won't even let your ass walk into, it's going to be really hard for me as an athlete to go, hold on a minute. It's okay for you, but it's not okay for me? No, double birds.
Yeah, that's an NCAA. That's a no. And now all the NFL, everyone's doing it, right?
Yeah.
Choctaw Casino or whatever. I'm not sure which one is the Cowboys. It's one of those up there in
WinStar,
WinStar, whatever.
WinStar, yeah.
All right, I got news on Baylor basketball team. This is Jackson Moffitt, and Jackson Moffitt went to Magnolia High School. He was a part of the Baylor National Championship. Great teammate, hell of a player. When he had a chance, he was fun to watch. He was a part of the Mullet Brothers, right? With Matthew Meyer. He is transferring in the spring to play at the University of St. Thomas in Houston, and has the goal of entering medical school for a couple of years. So Jackson Moffitt, I just traded a text message with him, and I'm about to put that up on Twitter, but I wanted to tell you, the audience, that he was fun. God, they had fun together. He and Matthew Meyer.
And he was someone who was an emotional leader on that bench. I mean, he wasn't going to play a lot. That was true. And I'll just say this: if he is going to be a doctor, he may want to do something about that haircut. Because if I walked in and my doctor had a mullet, I'm just telling you right now, I'm going to say, is there a guy out there with a crew cut that can give me a second opinion?
And Matthew Meyer, I'm sure he had to probably give his okay to this, right? Because you talk about NIL with those two.
Yeah.
All right. So that's news. Jackson Moffitt is moving on to play basketball at the University of St. Thomas. And he's done. What else can he do? He's not going to start. He's a fun guy. He's a great teammate. He's been a part of this ride. He's got a ring. So now go get your degree and go play some more at St. Thomas in Houston. This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Ideal MRI. idealmri.com, where you can get an MRI on whatever you need to when it comes to your shoulder, your neck, your back, your knees, even your abdomen, whatever they need. If it's something, when it's in your ankle, something that is torn, ripped to shred, whatever, dislocated, and a ligament or a muscle, Ideal MRI can help you. And even when they need to try to find something that maybe is painful inside your body that has nothing to do with a ligament and or a muscle, but something that you might be battling and you just don't know about it. And your doctor says, hey, Lee, we need to get an MRI. You tell him, you tell her, you tell your doctor, whether it is for a muscle or a ligament or anything else, you tell them. IdealMRI.com. We're in the Panther Stadium here at Midway High School. And Ideal MRI is like 5 minutes from here. It's in the Central Texas marketplace. They do MRIs, and some days they're open later than others because they know that there are times when you can't go get an MRI in the middle of the day. You just can't. You can't get away. So guess what they do? They help you out. Ideal MRI can do that, and it costs no more
than $497. $497. I remember getting an MRI. They called me up. They said, do you want to use your insurance? I said, yes, I want to make sure it goes towards my deductible at some point. And then, well, it was $497. It wasn't $530 or $800 or $2,000. The average MRI is $1,100. At idealmri.com, it's $497 every single time or less at idealmri.com.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Escape the mundane with the responsive power and exhilarating agility of a new Cadillac from Richard Carr Cadillac. Smile behind the wheel again in the supercharged sophistication of a CT4 or CT5 sedan, or the sporty and spacious XT4, XT5, or XT6 lineup of SUVs. Starting at only $33,395, the Cadillac of your dreams is waiting now at an affordable price at Richard Carr. Test drive from the expansive selection at Richard Carr Cadillac, or let us bring a test drive to you. Go to richardcarcadillac.com to schedule a test drive today.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
At Baylor University, students find their place to shine. They're faithful friends and inspirational leaders. They're championship teammates and independent thinkers. They're on the cutting edge of high tech and in the halls of history. If you want to make the world a brighter place, you can. And if you want to shine in your own way, you can. The spark you need is already inside you. Bring it to Baylor, where lights shine bright.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with Sam Bradshaw of Sikkim365.com.
We continue this 5 o'clock hour. Paul's top 5 in 30 minutes. Paul, Sam Bradshaw momentarily, or do we have him ready to go?
Right now.
Sam Bradshaw, S11, and soon to be delivering a baby in the next few weeks. So we take advantage of all of the opportunities we can. He has broken down KU and Baylor offense, defense, and depth charts and all that, much more. Sam, thanks for your time. I read all of the updates and whatever. Who is Kansas right now? Let's look at the offensive side of the ball. They like the quarterback. He can make you, hurt you with his legs. Who is Kansas right now on offense?
Thanks for having me on. And Kansas is a team on offense that they've got a few parts that are pretty good, but they're just not a full roster yet. The guy that's getting all the headlines right now is North Texas transfer Jason Bean, who athletically is like a receiver at quarterback. I think he's 6'2", 6'3", but he's like 190 pounds. But he can really fly. I think in high school he ran something like a 10.5 or 10.3 100 meters. Even if that time's a little inflated, that's booking it. Nick can pull away from people. He is the biggest weapon you've got to deal with on their offense. And they've got a good running back in Belton Gardner. And they've got some decent receivers. But a lot of what they're doing is they're having to rebuild their offensive line. They lost 3 guys off of a struggling unit from last year. And while they got a Buffalo transfer at center and a Notre Dame transfer at guard and another Buffalo transfer that's kind of at guard or tackle, it's really a work in progress for them up front. New coach Lance Leipold, he won 6 national titles at the Division III level. Then he turned Buffalo around, literally came into Buffalo the year after Baylor beat them back-to-back years and dropped like 130 points on them in 2 games. And he turned them into a 2-time division winner in the MAC. It's very much a similar wide zone scheme to what Baylor is installing. So they're really trying to get things under control. Offensively, with that line being work in progress and with that quarterback, they're not really able to protect them all that consistently. It's really boom or bust for them. They were able to hit some big plays against Coastal Carolina, but South Dakota was a lot more disciplined on defense against them, and they had under 20 yards of drive against FCS teams. So it's boom or bust. If you can just keep them from hitting the big plays, you can usually get them to self-destruct somewhere on the drive.
Sam, what concerns you the most about their offense? Would it just be the mobility of the quarterback and the fact that Baylor got burned by that early in the season a little bit?
A little bit. The quarterback himself taking off for long runs is clearly the biggest home run threats they have right now. He and Belton Gardner at running back. Gardner is not the speedster Puka Williams was, but he's probably a little tougher to take down on contact. Those are the guys you worry about breaking the big play for them. And as far as quarterbacks getting loose, Brady McBride did a good job of buying time and eluding, but I feel like McBride does a better job of buying time to make plays downfield. And while Bean did a good job of it on a few plays against Coastal Carolina, I'm not sure that Texas State doesn't have better protection than Kansas does right now.
So we got to see a little bit more of Gary Bohannon last week. Obviously the opponent was not a great barometer, but we at least got some more looks at this offense and what they're doing. And Sam, what were your thoughts on another showing from Gary and another showing of this Jeff Grimes offense, Eric Mateos offensive line, so forth?
Well, I thought that was a good example of what you needed to do against a team like that. Nobody's going to walk in saying Texas Southern is strong competition for you. Nobody's even going to go into the SWAC and say that when you're talking about a team that's lost 19, 20 straight. However, you looked at some of the games last year, even against teams like Kansas, the line was never really in sync. There was always something going on. And, the West Virginia game last year, you're running power and 2 guys run right by a guy that they're supposed to block. And Charlie Brewer had 2 guys sitting there, the guy he's supposed to read and the guy they were supposed to block, ready to take him down. Just handling your own business and being efficient in the way that you're getting the line to execute, that's the biggest takeaway for me. And seeing Bohannon execute well when he has time. He's done everything asked of him, but they also haven't asked him to carry the load because you haven't really needed to. you've got two running backs that have been pretty efficient through the first two games and doing really well after contact as well.
Yeah, and so they should do that, but it's not always easier said than done. That you just, you play Texas State, even though that game ended up being a little bit dicey. You run for a lot of yards. You should do that against Texas Southern. How do we know? Will we even know if they run for a couple hundred yards against Kansas? It's a Big 12 team. Who knows? When will we know, or do we know if that's really going to be something they can do, even if the numbers aren't quite the same?
Well, I think it's going to be as the season plays out. The first real tough test you're going to have is the really outstanding Iowa State defense. But then again, their tactics are a little different than some of the other teams in the conference. Therefore, just if you have a bad game against them, I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater. But also, if you have a good game against Kansas, you've got a whole lot of optimism. But you also recognize that Kansas is not going to be the caliber of defense that the rest of the conference is.
Baylor and Kansas and Lawrence coming up, of course, tomorrow. Baylor coming off the 2 straight wins that you expected, although the first one was a little bit closer than you thought. Gary Bohannon is off to a very nice start. Obviously, the first game, there were some hits and misses. They kind of held back a little bit. How much, Gary, Sam, just the ability for him to air it out, to throw to Tyquan Thornton and a couple of others, just to have that they can do it. How important is that of what they want to accomplish?
Well, not just the deep throw, but also being able to hit the intermediate and wide throws to the far side of the field can stretch them laterally in a way that you really weren't able to do last year. Brewer was a very good quarterback for you, but once he got banged up, he wasn't able to drive his throws to the same degree that he had before. And that limited you a little bit scheme-wise. Some of the criticism was overblown, but at the same time, having a guy that can really sling it the same way you had with Petty or Russell or Griffin, where they don't need too long to set up and they can really let it fire out to the wide side of the field. That forces the defense to spread out. And if you compare that with a really solid run game, particularly a wide zone run game where the defense has to flow in one direction, you can have some wide open windows to throw to. And I think Bohannon is going to see a lot of that this year, and it's going to be a benefit to him.
Do you think they have their 5 in the offensive line finally? I mean, I know that they've moved guys around position by position and done some things like that, but it does seem that they might have settled on who the best group is.
I think they probably found the 5 that if everybody's healthy, they'll go with, but life on an offensive line is everybody's dealing with something. So I expect there'll be a couple changes here and there just as guys get dinged up. But for the most part, I think they found their 5. And to be able to say that right now after the issues you've had the last couple of years on the offensive line, or really going back to 2017 when you had like 3 or 4 actual linemen and a couple converted tight ends and a couple freshmen, it's nice to finally be in a situation where you actually trust your offensive line to deliver for you.
Sam, I got to ask you, you're about to be shut down because of the child. And so my question is, have you already started studying film on Oregon and Auburn and Utah and future non-conference opponents just for the hell of it?
No, because with my luck, I'd put in all those hours and then they'd hire somebody else.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go.
No, definitely looked at all the teams we're going to play this year. Big 12 looks pretty solid in terms of competition. But, it's just going to be interesting to see. And BYU is going to be a really interesting game for Baylor because you're going to have 2 teams that have seen the wide zone a ton. And athletically, you've got some pretty interesting matchups on both sides of the ball. That's one that's going to be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? The year that they have them on their schedules, the year that there's expansion, and BYU is one of the ones that said, okay, hey, yes, we'll do this. And, yeah, we want you to. That's just crazy. And so, all right.
Before you go, I did meet 2 of your friends last night, David and Elise. They came to trivia at Brotherwell. They don't know anything or know their friends know anything about space. So you just you can give Rasmus about that.
Oh, I will certainly do that. Yeah, great people. Glad you guys had a good time.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you as always. S11 breaks it down, the analyst work of upcoming opponents, what they've done, what they do, and what Baylor might be able to do, and vice versa. When we come back,
you've got 13 minutes.
Nanu? Was that Robin
13
Williams?
minutes before you have to.
Oh,
we are. Here's the thing, Smokey. You've done something you rarely do.
Oh, I know. Here we go.
You're well ahead of schedule.
And I have kept us on board with that, and there's no question about it. All right, let's go to the chat room. From Bob Williams. As I get older, he's an Auburn fan, I find myself wanting to be on the lake or the golf course. There are things I can do on Saturdays besides watching what used to be college football. And he's talking about how things are changing now. I'm kind of I flip-flop on this. I love watching two highly ranked teams play. I've loved some of the games we've seen the first 3 weeks. Some teams maybe were overrated. There's going to be more of that, you would think, down the road. But there is a little bit of that. Okay, I kind of also like some of the memories of teams that aren't it, that have a chance to pull off the shocking upsets. That's not why I watch college football, to watch Appalachian State block a field goal, but it's part of the memories of college football.
Yeah, I don't ever want to root for a team like that again.
Or Jacksonville State.
I can't. That's it. It's over.
Or Troy.
That was the end of it for me when that happened. But yeah, good for them if they can get it.
I watched the NCAA tournament. A lot of times, we cover it. But I watched the NCAA tournament, and I'm not so sure I don't watch more that first weekend, that first day or two, because that's when you get some of those shocking historical memories. And I still keep up with it, but that's kind of, you would think, why the tournament is who it is, even though at the end, the Blue Bloods are the greatest team or the best teams that year, like Baylor this year, are going to win it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the cream always rises to the top, and most of the time the Blue Bloods are that cream.
Do you think that the college football, when they moved to the BCS and started to do the computerized thing, and even then there was controversies, and then that wasn't enough, so then they finally, and I was always a playoff guy. I always wanted a playoff. But do you think now that it's flipped so far to the right that the playoffs and all of that are just taking away something in college football or not?
I think the playoff will make it better. I think the biggest thing the playoff needs to fight to avoid is the ridiculous elitism that we continually have that's built in to the system. And look, part of the problem with the BCS is that there was an inherent bias built into the numbers, because you would weight different things differently based on who they were. And some of that, I think, wasn't necessarily who they were in the moment. I think that was who they were all time. So
every rule benefits the same 20 Blue Bloods over and over again, and they just keep making more rules that benefit the same few teams and not everybody else. So college football is in big trouble if they don't realize the path that they're going down, but they're so blinded by money that they'll just take until there's nothing left, and then go, oh my gosh, what did we do here? How did we screw this up? But they'll do it, and they'll do it with, thick pockets. I mean, look, there's no denying that name, image, likeness needed to happen, but it's gotten to the point now, like that conversation with Robert Allen pissed me off. It pissed me off because it just reminded me of a rant I went on about 2 months ago about how recruits and their parents and some of these coaches and a lot of these government officials who, God, how could we ever even trust a single thing any of them say? They're lying like 99% of the time. $100,000 education doesn't mean S. It means nothing. It's not even counted as a part of what is part of being a college athlete. It's not even counted as like $1 worth of anything. It's dismissed. Tens of thousands of dollars of a free education is just not even counted as a thing. And
like, that's just a given. Well, you should get that.
But it doesn't even count as value. Like, when you think about it, you go like, well, they get all this money for the playoff and this and this and this. Players get nothing. Free degree. Oh, yeah. Like, but it's never like it. The education part has been completely dismissed. And I know a lot of people will go, well, that was always like, look at a lot of the rosters, and there's like fifth-year seniors who are still general studies majors. Like, I get that it's all been a sham pretty much the whole time anyways. But more guys leave and don't go play in the NFL or play other levels of football. And how do they survive? They forgot about the freaking piece of paper that they got for free. Now, granted, they had to put the hours in. And I know that college kids who play sports don't have the same lives. But now there is this name and image likeness thing. But ultimately, when you look at it, who does it benefit? It benefits like the 15 or so schools that were already doing all the car dealership blank under the table anyways, because Oklahoma was doing it with Rhett Bomar and Adrian Peterson
20 years ago
in 2003.
And part of the problem with it is that applying – because NIL is for everybody. I mean, it's for the softball players and the baseball players.
But if you look at the breakdown from open source or whatever that is, it's like 97% football.
Yeah. So,
it's like 0.0002 gymnastics. Like, it's.
So while it's good that those kids can make something with their social media, I think that is
I freaking hate social media.
But I mean, but whatever you can, make the money that you can make with your name while you can make it while you're somewhat recognizable college athlete. The difference between football and men's basketball and everyone else is so great. I think we need to absolutely stop treating them all like the same thing.
Yes.
That's the other problem is that, and this is partially Title IX's fault, even though Title IX in its original form is a great idea, but Title IX makes you treat everything the same when it's inherently not.
When it's inherently not, because the only reason those sports exist is because the money that comes from 2 whole programs every single year. Mostly one of them, some of it from basketball and just the men's team.
Yeah.
Let's not treat softball as though it's the same equivalent of football in terms of like the impact. And look, I am not anti-NIL. I am not anti all this stuff. I'm just saying it's swung so far to where the degree is just it's meaningless.
Oh, by the way,
it's meaningless.
Yeah.
The free travel, the free uniforms, the free clothes, the free trips for parents now, the free recruiting trips, the free meals, the free. I guarantee you
cost of education.
Books, laptop, computer, transportation, Give, and that's all we ever hear. But then we hear how unfair it is. You know what I mean? It's just it drives me insane.
Here's
it's so pampered now. And look, this is not anti-athlete. This is not the way things used to be, because I wasn't really around for the way things used to be. I'm all for basically just taking the mask off and saying now Big Red Motors for Oklahoma can just openly pay Rhett Bomar and Adrian Peterson because of their name, image, likeness. They should be able to earn off that, and it will better a lot of these young athletes who don't have a pro career afterwards. But this whole idea of they don't get anything and they have no time and all this other stuff, it's I don't know, man. It drives me insane how far we're swinging the other way.
No, you made your point, and I agree with you. From Chris, Craig nailed it. It's the stratification of the rift growing between the haves and the have-nots that isn't sports, it's business. The National Football League, billionaire owners, franchises that are worth $5 billion, cities that are paying for their stadiums, right? They revenue share. The Cowboys – yes, have their own extra, their tier 3 rights with what Jerry can do. And he's the one that kind of said, hey, why are we not doing it this way? But Buffalo is getting the same check for television revenue as the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. And you know what? As much as Jerry would love to make even more, and he will, whenever he wants to, he will, he understands the value of the NFL is the equality of revenue sharing, free agency. Because he could easily say, no, we're worth $20 billion, and we can buy every player we want. And if he gets it, and it's the NFL and they have billions, then college football, you would hope sometime it's probably too late. We'll have somebody stand up and say, hey, let's wait a minute.
No, it's basically the NFL with no salary cap is what it is.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Jerry is Bama.
And no revenue sharing. If you think about it, because the entire league, we're not talking about the SEC. They revenue share. The Big 12 finally did. But what about everybody?
But, there's more of that separation that's going to happen. And it's people are like, you know what? There's going to come a time when there's going to be 20 schools that are just going to break off and be the mini NFL. And, then the next – it's nobody even – do you realize how impactful that would be?
Yeah.
Do y'all truly realize, let me guess, you're going to wait until the government steps in to tell you what to do about it because you're sure as hell not going to form any plan to try to cut this off at the pass. And it's a tricky deal because – again, I'm not anti-NIL, but this dismissal of degrees and this dismissal of all the tens of thousands of dollars that are spent on programs that don't bring in a red cent, and then, but more and more. And it's just, it's so leaning one way. And look, it leaned one way for a really long time, and schools got away with not having to pay for certain things. And they sold millions of dollars in Vince Young jerseys in Austin when everybody knew that was his jersey.
Johnny Manziel
and he got no cent. So there has to be a middle ground. I totally am on board with that. But
middle ground.
Yeah, but NIL has taken the teams that were already here and the other teams were here, and these teams are now up here, and these other teams have actually gone down. And there's this whole idea that the student athlete is some poor, mistreated soul who only works all the time and has no free time and gets nothing in return. And that's BS, man. That is total BS.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, NIL is going to work itself out on the bottom end of, like, there's going to be people who give money because there's a couple of cute volleyball players somewhere that have 200,000 followers on social media, and they'll see how that goes. But the bottom line is what NIL is going to turn into is just big people with more money than sense going, all right, you know what? I don't care if they endorse me or not. Here's $500,000. You're the official spokesman of Alabama football.
Why did Texas join the SEC?
Money.
More money.
Who makes more money than anybody?
Texas.
Yeah.
So why did they join the SEC?
Because it's never enough.
Because they saw A&M starting to get a little bit of a momentum, and a kind that was different than just like, hey, we beat Texas in a couple years. No, a kind that was like, we're in a better conference with just as much money and more opportunity and a better shot at the playoff and all these other things. And Texas is like, we don't want to be left out of this. Yeah. And then they had to have Oklahoma come along with them to make it all make sense. But yeah, the richest school wants to get even richer, and you know it all comes back to money.
Which is kind of like what America is, right?
And that's what drives me crazy about this country too. Is like, yes, it's so money driven that it's the root of all evil for a reason. That's all I'll say.
And then the other thing is these billionaires have convinced a bunch of people to root for them.
Yeah.
And then make sure that
billionaires.
Yeah, like, okay, well, hold on a minute. Like Jeff Bezos has never done anything for me.
How about and this is not like a Democrat Republican thing, but this is what really drove me up the wall. A few weeks ago when the Democrats in Texas decided they were going to charter a plane to D.C. to protest, and then they had the Democrats of Texas fundraising from the general public to help them buy meals, and they are worth millions of freaking dollars. Why are you donating to millionaires already? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense, and they do it with no guilt in their hearts because they have no feeling in their hearts for anybody that's below them. Like, it's just so top-heavy. It drives me insane.
You know what you need? To watch Oklahoma beat the hell out of Nebraska, and you'll feel better.
No, I know. It's all
right.
It's all going a very dangerous direction, man.
And everybody in the chat room, 9 out of every 10 agree with you.
Yeah.
And the other ones, they're just not commenting on it. They're talking about maybe Brian Bosworth.
Well, they're on their own thing.
Yeah, it's just something. I just see this like this collision course we're on, and everybody's so caught up with like dollar signs, they just don't see like the wreckage that's going to come from this. You know?
Yep, I agree. All right, great stuff. I love it.
Rant over. Yeah.
Okay.
But when Robert Allen said that, when Robert Allen said that, I was just like, you know what, this is total garbage. I'm not talking. Like, his point was valid. It was just it sparked that thought in my head of like,
he's got friends who are going to be paying off their student loans until their 40s. Well, hell, the government's trying to get rid of those too. But at the same time, I remember the last time we ever wrote a check for $113.26 for my education at SFA, and I was lucky enough to get an interest-free loan because of my dad being military. But we paid that off for a long time. And
a football player brings in millions of dollars to a university and gets that for free in return, but it's treated as though there's nothing in return. And I think that's insane.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, Paul Catalina, what's it on today, Paul?
The top 5 things to watch out for in the college football weekend.
Okay. All right. When we come back, we're live at Panther Stadium for high school football. I just saw the big 18-wheeler come in for Waxahachie. They're playing Midway in the opening of District 11 6A. We'll have that game up on the YouTube channel, 365 Sports, with video and audio of us and video from Midway ISD and the great folks that run that. And this is Sikkim 365 Radio. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague sent me a text message yesterday. You know, they have some amazing things going on. The Ram Power Days, the Ram 1500 Quad Cab. Ram Power Days going on right now. 2021 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star, total values of $7,000 up to $7,000 or 2.9% financing for 72 months. The 1500 Lone Star Quad Crew Cab offers style, dependability for any job. It's also the Ram Power Days going on right now at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep Ram Fiat. They also have right now the J.D. Power & Associates Vehicle of the Year. And guess what? That goes to Ram. Back-to-back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year. Well, how about first place as well on the prestigious J.D. Power's initial quality study, and the Dodge brand finished second to Ram. The 2021 Jeep Gladiator, the first among all mid-sized trucks, quality, Ram Power Days, all of that going on right now. Ted Teague and the staff at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman, with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
For a limited time, refinance your vehicle and have 90 days with 0 payments. Only at Genco FCU. Refinancing lowers your rate and you pay less for your car. You can't pass on rates as low as 1.75% for 48 months. Apply online today.
Annual percentage rate subject to change without notice. Subject to credit approval, membership eligibility, and loan policies. Go to GencoFCU.org. NCUA Equal Housing Lender.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. For ticket information, go to slapstickscomedy.com.
Welcome back in Sikkim 365 Radio, the Top 5. Presented by Slapsticks Comedy Club. And this week, top 5 things. I thought Smokey was going to be back, but we'll just have to roll, Craig, because we're getting towards the end of the show.
All right.
I told him 1 minute and 40 seconds might have been 40 seconds too long than we had, but even still. Oh, here he comes. Here he comes. But top 5 things to watch for in college football this week. Number 5. Does Mike Norvell bounce back from that Jacksonville State loss, which is the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of college football?
Can he?
I don't know. He's playing Wake Forest, so
I mean, if you don't beat Wake Forest, brother, then
Paul, are they any good?
No. Who? Florida State or Wake Forest? Neither team is good.
That's what I was asking.
I mean, no.
So how could that be a bounce back?
I mean, winning is bouncing back.
Okay.
I mean, you got to bounce back. I mean,
so
you
you're
going to
ask the same question about Scott Frost next week?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. I just want to clarify that.
Dude, if he loses to Wake Forest, then I don't care what the buyout money is. You got to start figuring the exit plan out.
Yeah.
I mean, if you lost Jacksonville State and Wake Forest back-to-back games, I don't care what the buyout is. Start making phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say that would be the end of his tenure, but man, it's one thing to lose to Jackson State. It'd be another thing to start a losing streak.
I was just looking at those Directors Cup rankings. They were 16th, and that was in the football game that won team that won 2 games last year. So think about how the rest of the athletic department is going compared to the moneymaker. Number 4, can BYU go 3-0 versus the Pac-12 this week? That'd be super interesting because they play Arizona State. Already got 2 wins in the season over Pac-12 teams. This will be I believe, their last Pac-12 game. So they could go 3-0 in the Pac-12, and if they do, it's probably no wonder why the Pac-12 never invited them.
Yeah, I thought it was Zach Wilson being gone, and then you lose one of your OCs there in Jeff Grimes. You lose Eric Mateos, both those guys to Baylor. I thought that they'd probably, see a little bit of a downturn this year, but I don't know. I like what I've seen. They beat up on Utah last week. They gave Charlie Brewer hell. So, man, this would be a game where I just would be normally like whatever, but with the Big 12's future, go BYU. See you take the clean sweep of the Pac-12.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. All right, number 3. Can Florida's 2 quarterbacks handle Bama? It is not good that you are rolling in to play Bama with a 2 quarterback rotation because the good one has a bit of a hamstring injury, and you're going to have to rest him, and he may not be able to play much of it because if you've got a bum hamstring, the last defense I want to see is Alabama's coming at me.
Well, and what's his strong suit?
Yeah, his strong suit is running, and Emory Jones has been, let's just call it an adventure back there when he comes to throw the ball. And you do not want adventurous quarterbacks when you're playing Alabama. You want steady eddies. And that's not what Emory Jones has been. I know that Florida's getting a lot of hype. I know that they're, this could be the thing is people want to see people beat Bama. This is not going to be it. You do not roll out with 2 quarterbacks against Bama and win.
Well, I mean, I'm very curious and excited to see this game. I mean, I'm thinking Bama wins, and they probably win comfortably by the end of it. That's just my assumption. But the two quarterback options are interesting, and I hope that he is healthy enough to be able to run around. Because I just hate it when we get a good matchup, and then it's like one missing piece that is really a huge element of what that game could be is missing. Mm-hmm. So his running ability would be intriguing to see. It might not make a damn bit of difference against Alabama's defense, but hopefully he's good enough to run around a little bit tomorrow.
They are just so good.
Yeah, they're so good anyways. But
there's a thing going on right now, I think on NFL Network about Nick Saban. I could watch his press conferences from 3 weeks ago or 10 years ago and not stop until he was done.
Yeah. He's just a machine, and that's what
he needs to take over college football. And somebody mentioned that on the chat room when he retires.
Man.
Yeah.
But you know why it won't happen?
Hey, I know.
Because too many people would not get as much money if they, and that's just like everything else. That's like politics. That's like everything else. Why doesn't the thing that makes the most sense and would be great for all the people, especially the people that aren't always the beneficiaries of everything? Oh, because that would hurt the people at the top again.
Yeah.
It's like never trickles down, man.
Yeah. All right, number 2, A&M plays New Mexico or New Mexico State this weekend. Forgive me for forgetting who it is, but a game they should have won.
That's elitist.
It is elitist. I'm sorry, I forgot. But does Zach Calzada look comfortable back there at quarterback? He did not look comfortable against Colorado until the very end of the game. He's got a big laser rocket arm, but it's not necessarily going wherever it's going to go. But I do think this will be a big thing for A&M moving forward as they get into the SEC. Not that beating New Mexico is going to tell you anything about your team other than they did what they should have done. But is Zach Calzada comfortable running the offense for Jimbo Fisher, which could be